YouTube.
And we're live on YouTube.
Hi, YouTube.
Yeah, Mike says hi, YouTube.
Hi, YouTube.
For the third time.
I'm so sorry, YouTube.
Hello, MySpace.
We're a little bit fucked up.
Hello, MySpace.
Hello.
Right. Hello, Miss Lady. This list sucks. This list sucks.
This list sucks. This list sucks. It sucks.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Welcome back to This List Sucks. I apologize in advance. I forgot to open my White Claws in advance of the show.
God,
so you're going to hear a clicking noise. Don't be alarmed.
Clicky, cracky, poppy.
Everything. Yeah, you're going to hear
everything.
All of those sounds, but it's okay. I promise. It's okay. Nothing is wrong. Don't be alarmed. We're going to be all right.
Can I share a terrible secret? This is Mike, by the way.
Budding
that was
alcoholism.
JB.
Justin,
that was
shut
Justin.
Mike, go on.
This is a fucking hot mess. Listen, apologies to everybody in advance. We blame 801 Chop House in Des Moines for everything that's going to follow from this point forward. So
Skip in particular.
Skip at the 801 Chop House. If you're listening to this, you bastard. I also have clicky, poppy, bubbly noises that are going to be coming in the future, but I'm going to wait. I'm going to surprise
wait on that.
our listeners with our clicky, poppy, bubbly noises. But listen, it's a new Friday.
Yeah. The good news is we're back.
Yeah.
It's been 2 weeks since Mike and I have recorded an episode.
Yeah.
Which is the longest it's been.
Absolutely.
Since we started.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah, I did know that. And I don't feel I'm so sorry. I don't feel bad about it because last week I was with family.
We had a lot going on. You shouldn't feel bad. Yeah,
I was with family, and it's family that it's family that's super close to my wife and all of our kids, and it's family that's dying, and cancer sucks, so fuck you, cancer. And
fuck you, cancer.
Yeah. And it just kind of blows, but at the same time, it's nice to be back.
Yeah, that's what I was going with that. Like, it's not, I didn't mean that in a bad way at all. It's good. We took a week off for a very good reason.
Yeah.
We appreciate all of you who listened to our bonus episodes that we released last week.
And hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it. Because
if you like that playlist, please share that around. We will be adding to that as we go. We're going to do that eventually for every stretch of the list.
Yep. Yeah. And that was, admittedly, it was funny because we were supposed to start that a week earlier, but admittedly, I was in no condition to record
you're just not in a
episode. It wasn't going to happen the prior week. And so the week before we took a break, we recorded a couple of bonus episodes, released them both last week, and we released some playlists on Spotify.
Those are up now. So you can find those now.
Yeah. So if you want to know what songs JB and I liked most from the first, basically 50. The first 50 albums, it's out there. And then
they're out there.
Yeah.
One song from each album. And the playlist, you can find the title of the playlist in the description of this episode. I'm not going to try to read it off here, but if you read the description of the episode, it's in there. So you can find this. It's on Spotify, it's on Amazon Music, and it's on Apple Music. But,
yeah.
So thank you for that. Another little note is we have a very special guest tonight, as I'm sure you guys have noticed who are watching on YouTube. This unsightly fellow in the middle of the screen here. This is finally Mr. Justin Handel, who
in person
has been on the podcast 3 times at this point.
Yeah.
Is that right, Justin?
I think two times on video, 1 time via phone call.
Yeah, 2 times for full episode, 1 time as a little accessory, and now
as
Justin
a little
is
accessory.
Here.
Is that what you fucking call me?
Yes, when you're not here.
Yeah.
Wait, did you just call him that here?
No, I didn't say that.
To my face.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Fucking heard it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
We don't know what you're talking about, Justin. But the good news is you're here now in person. You're joining us. Justin flew here for the express purpose of doing this episode.
All the way from Brooklyn, New York.
Yep, exactly.
This is where your hard-earned subscription dollars go, is to flying me flying me out here.
And we're not cheap. People pay a lot of money to
putting me up in my parents' guest bedroom.
Yeah. You don't know how much I had to pay your parents to allow them to let you stay there.
Honestly, after what happened in 2016, I can't even believe you were able to pull it off for any price.
It's a good thing JB
hard
supplies
negotiation.
Fantastic blowjobs.
Yeah, they like him way more than me. And honestly, Is that a big part of it? Yes. Is
No.
there a little bit more to it? Probably.
I gotta interject.
but-
I don't think that was. There's no. Forget where you. There's no blowjobs involved.
That we know of.
In all seriousness, though, like Justin, I'm so happy to have
Thanks
you
for being here, buddy.
Like,
we love you.
MVP of Guestum is Mr. Justin Handel, and so it's wonderful to have you here in person.
Yes.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Awesome.
Honestly, I can say, being a guest from afar where there's not a ring of
The ring of death.
like, am I going into the light?
You might be.
Fuck, I don't know. Like I it's so much easier from afar when it's just like I'm just in my bullshit office, like drinking my own liquor and
Yeah. For those listeners, we should explain this because we never have actually. For those listeners just tuning in here, we have a light that we have set up for our YouTube video because it makes the YouTube video look way better, and it really does. But it's basically just a ring light, and it is pointed straight towards Justin right now.
Yeah.
We point it straight to the end of the table. It is a gigantic ring of death, and it is like brighter than 1,000 suns. And luckily for me and Mike, it's not so bad because we get kind of the edge of it. We get kind of the edge of it.
Yeah.
But whoever's sitting at the end, namely the guest of the week, is just submitted to this terrible onslaught of fiery heat from this light.
It has to be something akin to don't go towards the light.
Yeah.
But you don't have a choice because the fucking light is pointed directly at your face.
It's like a hazing tactic, but it's also, it's just, it makes you look better. So.
No, I don't think it does. I just want to wait. So I've got
your pores look spectacular, Justin.
Yeah, okay, so I've got the YouTube feed. I've got the YouTube feed right in front of me. I got to say, so
you look great.
So it may maybe it looks like, hey, look at that. That's fucking Edward. What's his face? The vampire. No, actually, I'm gonna die young of skin cancer.
You don't look white at all, Justin.
That's not even true. Yeah, because at the end of the day, when we were eating dinner earlier tonight. Because we went to 801 Chop here in Des Moines, which is a very spectacular restaurant. Shout out to Skip because Skip provided us fantastic service.
10 shout outs to
like
Skip.
2/3 of the way through our dinner, Skip came up and he asked Justin, are you straight or are you gay?
He did ask
because there was another member of the wait staff that
was heavily interested.
Yeah. He absolutely wanted Justin's poll. Like, let's not be shy about it.
And you know what? I gotta say I couldn't help but notice he didn't ask about me or Mike. He asked only about Justin.
That's right. There was no second choice.
Yeah.
There was no like, well, if Justin's straight, I'll take the fucking guy on the left.
Justin.
Yeah, there was no
JB. Well, and we can all say what I said in response on 3, 1, 2, 3. Hey, I'm straight, but if the price is right.
Listen, either way, the ring brings out every bit of the beauty that the wait staff at 801 Chop saw. Justin.
And there is no line. The ring,
maybe.
The ring tells all.
The ring tells all.
The ring brings the truth. You have no option in terms of fabricating
your beauty.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. But anyways, so Justin's joining us for another trip down the list. Yeah. We are picking it back up. For those who are unaware, we are going through Rolling Stone's list of the 500 greatest albums of all time, released in September of 2020. We're going through it, and we're offering our well set in opinions about the albums on this list and whether they belong, whether they don't, which albums do belong that are not on there. And today we are picking it back up at number 355.
We're at a pivotal point.
Yeah.
Right? Like a super pivotal point in the list because we're coming to the close of another 50 and another 25, which means that we get to go back through at the end of today's episode and talk about basically
our favorites from the last 25.
Yeah, our favorite from the last 25. But before we even dive in, New Music Friday.
Did you listen to anything?
I listened to a couple of things. Did you?
I actually did.
Oh,
because I was a little bit ahead.
Okay.
And I found myself listening to next week's records.
I did too. Wait. Fuck. Okay. I don't know if you want to go into new music. I am curious though. What did you listen to? Oh, I guess you kind of told me.
I told you I listened to Liquid Swords.
Did you listen to anything else from next week?
That's it. That's all.
Are you familiar with the MC5?
No.
Oh, fuck.
Good shit.
So I did that.
You did that?
Like that's what I dipped into this morning on my walk. I actually dipped into that Stevie Wonder too because I'm like
That looks good too. And
no familiarity with that particular album from Stevie Wonder.
what songs are on that one?
I
mean, I know Stevie Wonder pretty well, so but I don't know that album.
Hang on.
In particular.
Give me
I bet I know. You take your time, Mike. He's gonna look up next week's.
Take your time.
Next week's. Go ahead, Justin.
So one item, and I haven't had a chance to listen to it, but because I know it came out on Friday, and I want to get your take on it. I listened to it because I was a little far behind. I traveled a long way to get here, and because it's just such a treat to be here. So I really had to do my homework on the 5 albums I've been tasked with. But I do want to put out to you two guys the Avalanches. So I
love the Avalanches. By the way,
I fucking love the Avalanches. They're so good, and I haven't listened to it, but they released this 20th anniversary edition of "Since I Left You," and it's an EP featuring Frontier Psychiatrist and 2 Hearts and 3/4 Time. Now, I got to be honest, I haven't hit up this particular. It seems like it's a re-release.
I don't see that on today's releases.
It was a June 4 release. So.
But who is it by?
The Avalanches. And so I don't know if anybody, do you know Because I'm Me by the Avalanches? It's like, it's insane. It's like the music video is crazy. It's like this kid in a subway, like dancing like he's in the fucking Jackson 5. And it's, that's a little problematic as it is the Jackson
I love
5
Wildflowers. Like I actually own Wildflowers on vinyl. And
they're a great group.
Yeah, Avalanches are a lot of fun. I was super pissed, like, because a few years ago, Avalanches were supposed to play at Bonnaroo, and I was super stoked about seeing them, but their visas didn't come through, so I didn't get a chance to see them or not.
You said their visas didn't come through?
Yeah, because they're Australian.
Yeah, I knew they were foreign, but like, fuck, for Bonnaroo, you can't get a fucking visa to come.
Yeah,
Bonnaroo.
that's definitely fucked up.
Don't disagree.
In terms of new music, I listened to a little bit of the album Change of Phobia. Did you listen to that today?
No,
Change Phobia. Rostam is the artist. It's basically a member of Vampire Weekend.
Oh.
And he has his own. He has his own little moniker, and he goes by Rostam. And he released an album today called Change Phobia. I gotta be honest, not really my thing. Like usually when we talk about new music, I can find something I like about it. And I didn't dislike it. There was like the titles track, Change Phobia. Was super jazzy and it was pretty cool. There was some, but other than that, it's just kind of poppy punky, and it's just not my thing. The way he did it, it wasn't really my style.
I did a couple of tracks off of Liz Phair's new.
I saw that and I was like,
Soberish.
and you know what? For some reason, I was like, I know Mike's gonna do that one. I don't know how I knew that, but I was like, Mike's gonna listen to Liz Phair, so I'll listen to this other one.
I did a couple of tracks on Liz Phair, which is they were cool. Like I'm down. And where do you think we encounter Exile in Guyville?
I mean, do you
really?
I have no
Fuck off.
What is that? I don't know what that is.
My bad.
That's Liz Phair's debut album. That fucking album has to be on this list.
I'm not familiar at all. Honestly.
I'm assuming between 200 and 300.
I think of the way that they crafted the list being primarily insiders, right?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, so like when I think about it, like
insiders love that record.
I agree.
Though, dude.
I think insiders lean to like, yes, I want Liz Phair on this list, but I also feel like, there's a bunch of insiders that maybe they're only on the list because of Liz Phair. And I think that, honestly, on the whole list, there's a ton of examples of that. Like you wouldn't even be on the list if it weren't for, ABC. That isn't on the list that came before you.
I feel you.
Honestly, is Liz Phair an example of that where like she did this thing and then you have her disciples show up on the list? I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay, so just to recap for everybody listening, Justin thinks Liz Phair could completely be devoid on this list.
I do.
Because it's all of her disciples that do appear on the list. Or if she is on the list, where do you put Exile in Guyville?
Fucking as soon as possible after 350.
Do you?
Okay.
I mean, I may have inside information, but she's not in the next 5.
Mike, do you?
I might have that same inside information.
Do you know of it being on the list?
I don't know, But it would be really shocking to me if Liz Phair, Exile and Guyvo was not on this list, because it's just.
If you're asking me, I don't think it's there. I don't think it's on there at all.
I think it is.
We'll see.
It's like, dude, that's like super seminal.
Is this another bet? I'd like to buy.
You want to buy Exile and Guyvo?
I'd like to buy
on the list.
I'd like to buy 3 put options on Liz Phair.
Okay, so we don't do spoiler alerts. I get that, but like I just looked it up because I'm a guest and I get to do. I can pull that shit.
Yeah,
that's totally fine.
You can.
I would love to tell you the fucking answer so fucking bad. Oh my god,
is it high?
I fucking love to tell you the answer.
No,
I mean I can't even fucking indicate if it's high or low or on it or not. I cannot fucking.
You can actually, if JB and I both agree. Do you want him to spoil whether or not it's on the list?
Give me the look.
Wait, time out. No, time out.
We talked about the look beforehand. Give me the look.
I can't pull my pants down on camera.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
There's no one-eyed cyclops in this podcast. Do you want to know whether or not it's on the list or not?
Are we taking the bet off the table?
Sure, I'll take the bet off the table.
I think. How about I think I say, is it on the list or not? And then from there, you bet on where it is
on placement. List. Okay,
placement in 50s.
Okay,
I think we either bet or we don't.
No, that's bullshit.
Let's bet then. I'm willing to bet.
Okay,
like what are we betting?
You name the terms. Because you're the one that doesn't even think it's on the list. Clearly, I think it's going to fucking be on the list. And so I think I have a better chance of hitting where it's at.
Let's not bet. Let's just find out.
Okay. No bet. Is it on the list or not?
No bet. No bet. You want me to tell you?
There's no bet. You tell us whether it's on the list or not.
It's on the list.
Wow.
You motherfucker.
I don't want to bet.
Okay, then just no shit, dickhead. You already said that. I knew it was on the list.
Where's at? Where's it at?
No, fuck off. No, there's no bet.
I didn't think.
I just want to find out where.
No, I won't tell you.
Oh, you can't. I thought that was what we were doing.
Listen,
I did not.
When we get to it, it's going to be a very pleasant surprise.
Surprise, guys.
Because this is actually so. Exile in Guyville is fantastic only because Liz Phair. So even the title, Exile in Guyville, is a riff on Exile on Main Street.
Obviously.
If I would have thought more thoroughly about that, I maybe would have been a bigger fan. I should really revisit that record.
You really should.
It's like one of those records that like you hear it like on a Spotify playlist. You're like, oh, this is Liz Phair. I've heard of Liz Phair. This is her deal. And then you just kind of like write it off. But like, you never like really listen to it front to back.
No, but if you dig into that record, it's fucking good, dude. Yeah, like it really is good. It's a very good record.
I will say, shameless plug for the podcast. One of the best things about this podcast and being a guest is like you get yourself out of that cycle of like, okay, let me, hey, this song came up on my playlist. Oh, it's good. Like I'll like it. But like this whole podcast, it makes you appreciate albums front to back. And
as a work of art, right?
Yeah. And like it teaches you a lot about artists. Like, okay, is this an artist that like spends the time in the studio and they put together a piece of art front to back, or they put together 10 songs, good or bad or whatever else, and it was good enough because it had this one song on it, or they put together a concept album.
That's right.
It's a fucking story and it's beautiful and we all love it. And that to me is the best thing about this podcast. It's like it makes you appreciate the album.
That's right.
And that the way that music gets distributed these days, no one gives a fuck about the album.
Yeah, and I hope that if nothing else, like, I mean, maybe people like us talking about albums, because, and this is something that I've harped on for a really long time, fucking fan of the show, Lee Stamper. Like, Lee Stamper will attest to the fact that fucking a decade ago, I used to get pissed at him for listening to one song on a record and then fucking jumping to another song. So I'd be like, wait, dickhead.
What about the rest of that piece of art?
What about the rest of that art? Because there's something to be said about an album as an art form. And I can't get enough of it. So, listen, next week is Music of My Mind, which was recorded in 1972 by Stevie Wonder. And then, also, I mean, Jesus, there's just so much going on next week. Oh my goodness.
We have a catastrophic event here. We have White Claw on the floor.
Sorry, guys.
Semi-catastrophic failure terms of.
That's okay.
Yes.
I'll take over. JB says we should keep talking, and he's obviously the boss around here. So I think if anything, we could talk about JB's failure to strategically place his White Claws. And you know the best thing is he accidentally hit the fucking laughter button. Oh my god.
Okay, you have to stop. JB.
Yeah, we're hearing like Dave Matthews Band samples.
Okay. No more. It's okay.
Okay.
So literally everything that you just heard was JB frantically trying to wipe down the board, which is now semi-coated in White Claw. But all of that being said, we do have some spectacular albums coming up within the next week. And even this week, like we had a number of, I would say, really, really good albums, right?
Yeah, going into it, I thought 3 of 5 fucking gold. And coming out of it, I think 4.5 of 5 gold. I was a big fan. I mean, am I burying the lead there, or whatever the opposite of burying the lead is?
I don't even know that you're burying the lead.
I'm throwing the lead out front.
Yeah.
What do you call that? What do you call that in showbiz term? Fucking up, maybe?
No, I don't think you're fucking up at all. I really don't think that you're fucking up at all. But I do think that it is high time that we jump into this list and talk about listen, let's talk about the 5 albums that we got coming up. So
that's if we all don't get electrocuted first, by the way. I mean,
no, we're not going to get electrocuted. It'll be just fine. JB has now.
Do you guys have
taking care of the situation, guys? But yeah, I mean, electrocution is a real possibility. So I think that if you guys like need to text your lawyers or anything, like get that done now.
Stop.
So we can get that squared away.
I got to be honest. I don't know how my insurance applies to this particular situation. We didn't fucking talk about this. Honestly, like they were like, will you be doing any podcasts in a wet environment? No, well, I fucking figured no at the time.
In all honesty, this is all Katie's fault.
Yeah, that's true.
There's no denying the fact that if Katie wouldn't have come in through the back door and caused JB to spill his drink, and then
Jesus Christ, Katie,
upon spilling the first drink, he looks back and spills his second drink.
Fuck off.
Yeah. The reason the whole show is possible is also the reason the whole show can collapse in a matter of seconds.
That's exactly right.
The good news, Mike, is that the second drink spillage was mainly in my own lap.
And also, mainly not my drink. So I'm going to be here with zingers all night.
So YouTube is going to enjoy the fact that JB looks like he pissed himself for the rest
we'll get him to stand up for you all
of the evening.
Yeah,
at the tail end of the show. Yeah. But I do think that JB should put his headphones back on, so that way we can talk about the first album from this week, which is number 355.
As I continue to try to mop up the mess that Katie has created.
God damn it. I can't believe you dumped that on her.
Who would do that?
Only JB. Okay. So from 1970, the first album that we're going to talk about this week is Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath. So according to Rolling Stone, they say recorded in a single 12-hour blurt by a hippie-leaning former blues band, this lumbering debut conjures up new sludgy sound, the birth pains of heavy metal. The slide guitar and wizard and the grungy boogie of Wicked World would influence not only future metal spawn, but even the sound of Nirvana. The album's most vivid nightmare is the 6-minute Black Sabbath, which even scared the band itself. Quote, "We always wanted to go heavier than any other band," end quote, said bassist Geezer Butler. JB, as you wipe off the rest of the Black Cherry White Claw from our board.
Yeah. Talk about heavy metal while you wipe off some fucking White Claw from your fucking board.
Tell me what
are you trying to say?
Give me some Black Sabbath love.
This album is fucking cool. I love almost every single part of it, even the harmonica. So that's the other thing I want to say is just looking ahead to this week, we have some seriously decent harmonica going on in this week, which usually is not the case.
By that, do you mean heavy harmonica?
Not even on only this album though. There's a couple albums. Are you hearing okay in your mic, in your headphones there, Mike? beyond this record, there's some good harmonica going on in this week. Probably the best harmonica week that we've had in a while, I do have to say. So, but yes, I mean, I love this album. My band that I play in has covered the title track of this record numerous times, and it's such a great song. It's the impetus of doom metal. Everything is great about this record. What do you guys think?
I fucking love it.
Yeah, I love everything about it. I mean, yeah, JB sound is good. I'll tell you that.
Okay, I was making sure you guys can hear. Okay, we had a catastrophic incident here with White Claw. It was bound to happen at some point. White Claw sponsors this show, so regardless, they'll be sending us a check for this. But
yeah, or 24 fucking White Claws.
All black cherry.
Black cherry, please. That seems to be the preferred flavor.
Listen, there wasn't a single track on this record that I didn't fucking enjoy. This wasn't the first time that I had heard the debut from Black Sabbath. I've heard this before, and God damn it. I mean, it's a fucking classic, right?
Yeah.
This is the birth of heavy metal.
Yeah, I will say I was surprised to see it. So I thought,
you were surprised to see it in general, or just at this point in the list?
in general.
Really?
So
no doubt in my mind this is gonna be on here.
So I thought, metal is generally underrepresented. And so I thought, Paranoid by Black Sabbath, 110% going to be very highly rated. Because, I think that, chronologically, this album came first and Paranoid came second by Black Sabbath. So, the invention of doom metal, the invention of heavy metal belongs to this album. However, I would say that like the popularization, like the mass appeal of those genres came from Paranoid, right? That's the way I feel.
But the genre is not present in Paranoid, the doom metal genre.
And I agree. Doom metal is not present in Paranoid. That's definitely this album. But
it's very much here.
But metal in general, but I honestly, so like Black Sabbath, I think a lot of people think Ozzy Osbourne because, he had a fucking reality show. His wife is on the fucking View or some shit. No, Tommy Iommi is the whole.
He's the guy.
He's the beginning,
Tony
and the
Iommi.
end, the alpha and the omega of Black Sabbath, of metal music,
and of metal, right?
He's the whole fucking show, and like I do again.
Geezer too.
Yeah. Oh my
Geezer
God.
Butler is so fucking underrated.
It's almost like you guys are saying
Yeah.
that each member of the band is essential.
Listen, Bill Ward is a fucking beast, dude.
It's almost like you guys are saying everybody is good in that band.
I made specific note.
Kinda.
Right. I made specific note on the Wizard, where I felt like the drums on the Wizard were every bit as important as Tommy and Geezer and what Ozzy was doing with the much loved JB instrument of choice. That fucking harmonica, dude.
And honestly,
so good, dude.
So here's what I wrote. Like, you talking about the Wizard?
Yeah.
So I wrote like the harmonica feels very intentional to me there. And again, like I said the fucking same thing last episode, but I'm going to say it one more fucking time for those people who didn't hear, which is that I don't dislike harmonica in general. I dislike unnecessary harmonica, which what I say to mean is I'm talking about harmonica that's added in just because it's easy to add in. There's so much music where they've said what they needed to say. They've made the statement. It doesn't need anything else. And they decide, hey, we're going to add harmonica in just because it's easy to add in. I don't like that. I don't hate harmonica in general, although it's not my favorite instrument. I'm going to admit that. But I don't hate it right off the bat. I'm not immediately predisposed to dislike harmonica. I dislike when people add it in as an afterthought and when it's not an integral part of the sound.
Okay.
This is different.
Okay, so you enjoy the harmonica on
I like the harmonica in the Wizard. That's Ozzy playing that harmonica first of all.
That's right.
And it feels intentional. It feels like they set out there like let's pick an instrument to play this melody and it's going to be a harmonica. It's not like, hey, we wrote the song, we recorded every part of it. It's great. Let's add one more fucking thing in for no reason. Harmonica on top of that.
I love it. What's your favorite track?
My favorite track on this song or on this album is either I mean, so here's the thing. Like, I put 5 stars next to several tracks on this album.
Which ones? Because there's only fucking technically. Okay, so what did you view as a track? Like, were you looking at the UK release? Were you looking at the United States release? Because in the US release, I mean, technically, there's only 5 fucking cuts on this record.
Yep, that's what I was
And
looking
2
at.
of them are medleys.
Were you a fucking teabagger or what?
I don't know what that means, but I gave 5 stars to Black Sabbath, which is the opening track.
Yep.
I gave 5 stars to Wasp / Behind the Wall of Sleep / Basically / NIB, which is the 3rd track.
Which on the UK release, for everybody that hasn't dug into this, that was 2 different tracks. So on the UK release, it was released as Behind the Wall of Sleep and then NIB.
And I gave 5 stars to the final track. The Bit of Finger / Sleeping Village / Warning.
So listen, I'm right there with you, but I didn't give anything 5 stars. I gave 4 stars to Black Sabbath, The Wizard, NIB, which is basically the third track, which is a melody of 2 different songs on the UK release. And then Wicked World, I gave 2 stars to, and then the last track, Sleeping Village and Warning, I gave 2 stars to as well. I felt like the album got weaker as it went on.
Because I don't know, man. I loved this whole thing.
I mean, I did too. Like, I did too, but just like, if I'm going to compare one song to the other.
Like, I wrote a fucking paragraph about the last song. I don't even have time. I didn't have time to read it.
You know? How about read it, and then I will take pot shots from the cheap seats.
The bass line on the last track was fucking ridiculous.
On Sleeping Village?
Yeah. I mean, it was really fucking ridiculous.
First of all, it was the
work there was ridiculous.
It was the first song with acoustic guitar that we had. There were a lot of great like instrumental sections on this album. What I liked about that last track is it's just what I really like about, and honestly, it's like it kind of sums up what they do throughout a lot of the rest, is they have like a little motif or an idea, and then they have these instrumental sections that serve as bridges between the next section. It's almost like prog metal.
Yes.
It's like progressive metal. You know what I mean?
Metal.
And like it's either a medley or it's prog metal, you know? And I like it being a prog metal. So like, and just there was a whole section on the last track that was just isolated Tony Iommi the whole time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey, can we give a shout out to the fact that dude was okay, so that guy played left-handed guitar.
Yep.
Which means that his right hand was his fretboard hand. And at age 17, he had an incident. He was working at a sheet metal factory in Birmingham, had an incident where he basically cut off the ends of his ring finger and middle finger on his fretboard hand. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So he's closer to Django Reinhardt than the rest of us.
I mean, honestly, like he basically developed these weird plastic caps that he put on his 2 middle fingers, which they ascribe to some of the sound that he created. But
the texture of your fingers, seriously, I think more
it makes a big difference.
But it has everything to do with your tone. Like, I mean, like you have 2 guys playing through the same amp, same pedals, same everything, and the way that your fingers contact the strings on both hands.
It makes a difference.
Everything to do with your tone.
It makes a difference. So my joke inside was that, you know, if you combine Jerry Garcia with Tommy Iommi, you would have one seriously fucked up guitar player.
Honestly, probably have more fans.
Probably. You'd probably have more fans. But I mean, listen, Tommy Iommi has got to be one of the greatest riff creators in all of fucking metal or music, right?
Yeah.
From a guitar standpoint.
I gotta correct you, and I know this seems nitpicky, but you guys have said it multiple times. You guys keep saying Tommy Iommi. It's Tony Iommi. So I have to be very clear. We know what we're talking about. It's Tony Iommi. It's not Tommy. I'm not trying to be a dick, but we can't be saying the guy's name wrong.
Let me say
Tony Iommi.
Let me say
you guys
something.
both said it.
Let me say something about Tommy Iommi. So Rolling Stone ranks him as number 25 all time. I think
Nobody knows who Tommy Iommi is
I know.
because that's not a fucking guitar player.
I think 25 is way too low, but they rank Tony Iommi at number 24, and I think that's right the fuck on par.
Again, I'm not trying to be silly. we got to set the record straight.
No,
there.
that's
You know,
that's fair.
it's just programming shit. We can't.
Yeah, but I totally agree that the influence. This is one where you constantly we're always faced with, okay, why is this record on the list? Is it influence? Is it just overall value? And I think that this one is more so it's the influence, right? Because this is the first instance of doom metal and just metal in general that you're going to see. And Tony, sorry, can you check my spelling? Is it Tony?
Fuck you.
The word is Tony.
I think
Tony. Tony.
Okay, you're being silly, but I think that the distinction between Tommy and Tony is important.
Okay,
It's
it's
very
Tony.
worthwhile.
Tony the Tiger
bad.
Iommi.
No, it wasn't just you. It's both of you.
I know.
It's
Mainly
true,
it
it's
was
true, it's
Justin.
true. I do feel bad about that because the man deserves to be recognized for his real fucking name
Absolutely.
because he's a fucking legend.
Yeah.
So Tony Iommi deserves to be recognized as the fucking founder of these genres. And I think that Ozzy Osbourne, because of him and his wife's like pop culture relevance.
Well, and just of his position in the band, him being the singer.
Yeah. And
He gets misappropriately-
and the lead
Yeah.
harmonica player.
Yeah, which is just gets you knocked down a peg.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I think that Tony Iommi, and I think we would all agree, Paranoid by Black Sabbath is going to be way higher on this list.
Where do you guys think it is? Because I think it's top 100.
Top 100.
I think so too.
Okay.
It's that good.
Yeah.
And that's what I guess that's what I'm kind of getting at is like like Tony Iommi invented this entire genre. He composed this music and then he got better at it, when he wrote Paranoid, the whole fucking album. And so I think that
Shout out to Geezer Butler though.
yeah, shout out to Geezer Butler.
Big
That's
time.
That's totally
Big
right.
time.
I mean, Geezer was the original Phil Lesh in terms of like metal music. And what I mean by that is Phil Lesh was a guitar player that picked up the bass. And so he developed a very unique playing style within the realm of jam music. And Geezer did the exact same thing. So Geezer was a guitar player that picked up the bass, and Geezer ended up playing bass incredibly differently than the way that I think anybody else that was playing bass at the time played the instrument. But regardless, this album absolutely deserves to be on this list.
Favorite Geezer highlight. Do you have one on this
From
record?
this particular record.
Like musically or like personally, because he's got some hilarious fucking stories, I will say.
Probably The Wizard from this particular record.
That was definitely dope. There was a point in the medley that was the third track, which is Wasp / Behind the Wall of Sleep / basically / NIB. There was a point that was basically a bass solo.
Yeah.
And that was amazing. I like that a lot.
I did make the note. I want to read this. I wrote, NIB is a bass wet dream. Giant, heavy, and rad.
I assume that's what basically was, because it's spelled BASSIK or CALLY.
Yeah.
So it's like basically, but with this.
So it was basically a bass solo that connected Behind the Wall of Sleep to Nativity in Black. But realistically, like that entire medley was Nativity in Black, and that fucking song is monstrous.
Yeah.
It's fucking dark and deep and just so ridiculously good.
I liked how so they were a hippie band, right? Like they were a hippie band before this album. I'm curious how a fucking hippie band flips a switch and then they're like, all right, we're inventing metal. We're inventing doom metal now.
Okay, we got a new genre we came up with right here.
Yeah, it's called
fucking doom metal.
It's like we used to play songs about fucking rainbows and lollipops, and now like it's all about fucking. It's all about the fucking underworld and shit. I mean, I saw plenty of comments where it was like they did not want to be associated with Satanists, and I totally get that because if you want to sell records, like being associated with Satanists in the 60s and 70s is not necessarily commercially.
Yeah, it's not what you want to do. It's not commercially
recommended thing.
viable.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, when you fucking look at the lyrics to Black Sabbath,
Yeah,
the title track, the opening track of this record, it's so fucking dark, man. Like, I mean, it's scary. Like, it's really, I can't imagine what this record was like upon release. I just can't even fucking imagine it.
I mean, and just the fact that like that's the opening track. Like a lot of the rest of the record is not nearly as evil or doomy sounding. A lot of the rest of the record
is fucking dark, dude.
Yeah. It is, but like a lot of the rest of the record is almost like heavy blues rock.
It's true.
You know,
Tony.
But Black Sabbath.
Tony
Iommi.
You can tell throughout, and I think that's what's really great about this record. You can tell he grew up in the 50s and 60s. He's a blues guitar player. Yeah. And he stumbled into this sound that's unique and it's new. And I think that's probably why I love this album like quite a bit, is because I love 50s and 60s blues. So does this guy.
And it's prevalent there.
And he fucking invented doom metal and
but I feel like we've kind of slighted Ozzy a lot throughout this conversation. We've been like, you know what? Ozzy was there, but Tony we love. But Ozzy on the first track, dude, amazing vocals. I gotta say, just the whole oh no,
it's
like screaming, dude. Like it's fucking awesome.
Can we get that one more time? I love
very
oh no.
It's very
theatrical. That's exactly what it sounded like. Yeah.
It's super theatrical.
Oh, no. I actually sung that song live, and I promise I did it better than that.
I'm sure we all know you did.
Even on Paranoid, I would argue that the heavy lifting is done by Geezer and Tony Iommi and Bill Ward. Like even Bill Ward, because there's so many tracks on this record and on Paranoid, which we'll talk about Paranoid at some point in time in the future. But I love the way that they use negative space for the bass and the guitar with Bill Ward. Because Bill Ward is not just a guy that fucking maintains the 1, 2, 3, 4. He's an active participant in what they've created in terms of laying the foundations for metal. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I agree. Like you don't invent a genre, and frankly, a genre and a subgenre. Really, they invented metal and they invented doom metal, the subgenre. You don't do that with one guy.
No.
Like you can't just do that with a guitar player. Now, granted, he was a primary composer, but you still not one. It's not one guy that composes that. You have to have the bass that drags. You have to have the drum that drags, and like you have to have that rhythm section really adhere to a vision.
That's right,
and that's what you had here. Like you had it like somehow. I don't get how in this era, you know, four guys came together and cohesively stuck to a vision that came out and sounded like this album.
Yeah.
I don't get it. It doesn't seem like it would have been commercially viable.
That's right.
And
I don't know that it necessarily was.
Yeah, it's not that it was really, but like, I mean, now here we are, we're all looking back
in terms of impact.
Yeah. And
right.
Like, and this was one of the most impactful albums, you know,
without a doubt.
I mean, you're a big Tool fan. There's no Tool without this.
No, absolutely. Listen, there's no, I don't think there's
like nothing. There's nothing.
There is no branch of metal without Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
There's no branch of metal. There's no
simply
Metallica.
No metal.
There's no.
And
I don't think there's any metal.
Okay, you know what?
Black Sabbath.
I think it's crazy we haven't brought this up yet, but Lee Stamper sent us an email, and I'm going to read that right now. So just give me 1 second here, guys. Lee Stamper sent us an email about this album in particular. And speaking of what we just fucking said, this is going to tie in directly. So he sent us an email, subject line, fun fact about the Black Sabbath album. And the content of the email. This is the first metal album. Okay, that's just like a singular statement. This is the first metal album.
But it's not a singular statement.
And features a harmonica. Because, listen, Justin.
Fuck yeah, it does.
Listen. Because it is metal harmonica, the band referred to it as Metallica, which is where the band got their name.
Wow.
So Metallica,
I don't believe a single fucking word of that.
I'm assuming that Lee Stamper didn't send us non-factual information.
I'm assuming
He's
the
a pretty
exact
factual
opposite,
guy.
and
No,
he assumed
Lee's
this
a pretty factual
non-factual
guy.
Information.
I don't think he did. I think that he actually did his research here.
I
Which
think
is
I
that-
think Lee Stamper can expect a letter from my attorney.
Okay, yeah, maybe you can expect that. But anyways, Lee is stating that Metallica is named after the fact that Black Sabbath played harmonica on this record. You have anything to say to that, Justin?
I think he already did.
Honestly, I have a whole fucking
attorney's gonna
lot
be-
to say about that. First of all, is I hope you're fucking happy, JB. hating on harmonica this long, and then you get such a fucking gift that really, honestly, have everything to owe to.
And then the
harmonica
final
on this
sentence
album.
in Lee's email is great album, but not as good as the Beatles.
Can I read Rex?
You know, can I
Yes.
just before Rex, I just want to say my friend Dan Schaefer. I don't know if he watches this, but he's a good. We know Dan Schaefer. He's a great friend.
He's a good
And-
friend of ours.
And
yeah.
Dan Schaefer is, quite famously, at least for me, he hates the Beatles, which I fucking love because it's such an unpopular opinion, and just like, and so I'm so interested in it. I'm like, oh my god, why?
Yeah,
Oh my god!
I agree. How do you
Yeah.
hate the Beatles?
I'm like, and he's a great guy, and we love a lot of the same music. But his whole thing is like, people just like the Beatles because they're the Beatles because that's the Beatles, and because they're the Beatles,
no, false.
they're the Beatles. And like, I love the way he says it. It's like they love the Beatles because they're the Beatles, and they're the Beatles because they're the Beatles. It's like no one ever
Totally
actually
wrong.
took a fucking second to think. And this, I disagree with this. I will say I disagree with this, but he does say like no one took a fucking second to consider. Okay, is this music good or is it just the fucking Beatles and I'm a fucking hack and I want to like good music?
Okay, you know what? That's a valid
Super
thought
fucking
that you
true.
may have,
Yeah.
but it's completely wrong when it
Yeah, I
comes
totally
to the
agree.
Beatles.
I totally agree.
The Beatles, they hold up to that. You like
I agree.
that's an examination that you might bring forth. You might be like, hey, are we just liking this because it's the Beatles and we're not really giving it a fair evaluation?
Well,
are we just saying that because it's the Beatles? And then you look at it, you're like, you know
though.
what? Turns out we were fucking wrong. It's just it's amazing. And
It's
that's
that good.
that's the situation. Like that's
when you're
undeniably.
sophomore year in college, those are the thoughts you have. You smoke a little too much, and you're like, oh my god, are the Beatles good?
yeah. I mean, we can
And
accept
the
that
answer-
sort of
you smoke-
transgression.
When you smoke a little more, you're like, yeah,
Yeah,
dude,
they really are.
they are.
Read Rex. Mike.
Okay, so Rex Todd said, yes. The lengthened guitar riffs on the opening track with Ozzy's haunting vocals and the dramatizations is just what I needed on this gloomy morning. Ripping guitar work and necessary harmonica solos throughout this absolute classic heavy metal album.
See, I don't disagree with Rex there.
Good.
Like, actually I do because it's not necessary, but it's acceptable. Again, Rex, I got to make the distinction. There is unnecessary harmonica and there is acceptable harmonica. There is no necessary harmonica.
I feel like
Again, that is JB's.
That's JB's opinion.
That's JB's opinion. Rex's opinion is that ripping guitar work and necessary harmonica solos throughout this
Again, I got to say, no, I'm just kidding. Sorry. Go ahead.
throughout this
well, if I could
classic.
stop you there.
God damn it. Throughout this classic heavy metal album. Absolutely love this album. Everyone needs to listen to this record. I totally agree. This was the genesis of an entire genre.
You agree about the necessary harmonica thing?
Stop. It's okay.
All right,
What I want to know is we're at 355 according to Rolling Stone.
Yeah.
We know that Paranoid is on this list.
do we?
I'm assuming that Paranoid is top 100.
I think so too.
I do too.
Do you like the placement of this? Do you want to move it up? Do you want to move it down? I mean, it's on the list, right?
I think where it is or up. I don't think moving it down would
How
do
far
it
up do you want to move it?
I would be comfortable moving it up 50 places at
Okay.
the very most. I don't want it to go more than that, but I don't want it to go down at all.
Yeah, it's definitely not moving down for me. And if this wound up at 300, I'd be okay with that.
I think having cheated ahead a little bit, and I'm not going to disclose too many secrets here, but there's an underrepresentation of metal.
Yes,
I don't think that's going to surprise people. This is
no, but it's going to piss people off,
it's
right?
Yeah, it's going to piss people off, but like it's
Yeah.
Rolling Stone. Like what do you want? Like
I want fucking Rolling Stone to be realistic. God damn it.
Look,
I loved metal. I grew up on metal.
Look, you and me, I'm sure we agree on this shit, but like, I'm happy this is on this list because like, look, if I would have made a prediction before even looking at the list, I would have been like, yeah, maybe you get one Sabbath album and it's Paranoid, right?
Okay.
So I'm really happy.
fair.
I'm really happy that this is on here. I'm really happy that I'm very confident that Paranoid is also probably on here and it's probably ranked really high because it's not only an invention of metal, it's probably like the fucking peak of metal. It's like they invented metal and then they showed us how fucking well it could be done.
That's a fascinating take on that. I kind of love that actually.
But I will say the only thing that scares me, and it's not that I don't think I do think this belongs here, but what scares me is that maybe there's some metal albums, for instance, some Tool albums that you're very fond of that lost their place on this list
because of this record.
And it's not because this album doesn't deserve the spot. It's just because, like, in general, they didn't want to represent metal so well.
Yeah. And that's what gets really weird for me. I thought about this a lot this week within the context of the representation of metal, right? Because this record has to be on this list. As I just mentioned, I'm okay with this spot. I would be even more okay if it moved up 50 places. But at the same time, knowing that metal is so underrepresented, do we get 1984 from Van Halen? And is that on this list as a representation of metal?
I hope so.
Or is that called rock?
That's rock.
Because
the guitar playing is like
classic rock.
I think people confuse the guitar playing with metal because it's so fast. But like, honestly, if you listen to Eddie Van Halen's, like the theory behind what he plays, that is an extremely sophisticated guitar player.
Super sophisticated.
Extremely.
Yeah.
No doubt. But regardless, it's interpreted as rock and not metal. So I think that honestly, it's not metal.
Eddie Van Halen's guitar playing is more akin to classical music than any other genre on this list.
Which classical is tied in with rock a lot, especially with that style of music.
So then
I gotta ask you this, Mike.
Yeah.
He's so good.
I gotta ask you this. So say Paranoid is in the top 100.
Yeah.
Let's assume that.
Yep.
Okay. Do you put a Tool record in front of this?
Oh yeah.
Before this?
Yeah.
Really?
Like higher than this?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's because then you run into the spot where you're like, does the invention or the influence outrank? I've
thought about this a ton. I've thought about this so much, Justin. And for me, just because you did it first, that doesn't mean that the derivative isn't better.
Yeah,
and
we've talked about this before.
We've talked about it a ton.
I agree with you.
And the derivative, if the derivative is better, then the derivative deserves representation. And that's where I think Tool has gotten fucked so hard.
So you think that, but
Tool is
that's a hard one, dude.
Dude, Tool is so derivative. Tool is derivative of Sabbath. Tool is derivative of King Crimson. Tool is derivative of so many different pieces. But
again, Mike,
I'm not way that they put it together.
I don't disagree with that at all. I don't agree with that at all. But like, I think there's been other times on this list where the situation has been this music is derivative of this other music and it's improved upon it. And it's surpassed it to the point that it eclipses it. You know what I mean? Or to the point that like, oh, we can just forget about this. Even if that's a crime, we can just move past this and we can do this because it's eclipsed the other thing. I don't think that's the case with Tool and Black Sabbath.
I don't think it is either. Yeah. But that's where I do think that Roxy Music can
don't skip it. Don't skip ahead.
Like Roxy Music can fuck right off because if you
I'm not Justin the producer, but I'm going to jump in and fucking produce
if
here.
You told me that Enema appeared at 351 and Black Sabbath appeared at 355, I would say, yeah, that's reasonable. Because Black Sabbath should appear on this list because it was the genesis of everything
of doom metal.
But the derivative is so much better that the derivative appears before it.
I think that's more arguable than a lot of the other derivative conversations we've had. Because I think there's been other situations where
Yes.
it was very clear that the derivative has eclipsed the original. Where
Yeah.
I don't think it's clear with this personally.
agree.
But I respect that you think that.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily agree with that, but I think it's up in the air. I'm not saying fuck you, I disagree, but I'm saying that it's
It's
not nearly
debatable.
as clear cut. You know what I mean?
No,
Yeah.
that's fair.
I'm saying fuck you. I disagree.
Regardless, I think we should move on.
Let's move on.
But I have this in digital. Obviously, I'd love the vinyl.
I would love this vinyl. And if and when I find this vinyl, you bet your ass I'm going to buy it.
Yeah, and if you find 2 copies, you buy one for me too.
I will.
And I'll buy. I'll do
Absolutely.
the same for you.
Absolutely.
How about you, Justin? Do you have this?
I do not. I have one Sabbath album. I won't say which one because I don't want to discourage listeners from
You have Master of
just buying
Reality.
it.
Is it
for me.
Paranoid?
But my address is 627 DeKalb Avenue, apartment 1A, Brooklyn, New York. So if anybody does feel so motivated,
I'll send this to you. I'll send it to you. I'll buy it for you.
Yeah, that's where I live.
If I find it, I'll buy it for you.
I
love you,
honestly,
buddy.
honestly, you know what I think we should do, and I think this is a great idea for the podcast, and for friends of the podcast, listeners of the podcast. Let's get a fucking record exchange going. I was just talking about. I have this wonderful, beautiful, rare record that I just would love to share with people, and frankly, it's so great that you can't even share it electronically. You
What
just
is it?
got to literally ship the fucking physical.
What is
LP.
it?
It is called Brain Freeze, and it is by DJ Shadow and Cut Chemist. And you will never fucking find it.
Okay, if you're interested in an LP exchange, send us an email.
Yes.
And you can email us at thislistsucks@gmail.com.
Yes.
Or you can send us a voicemail by going to anchor.fm/thislistsucks, and you can leave us a voicemail. And if you want to participate in our like weird LP exchange, we will absolutely we'll figure it out.
I didn't want to invent something, but I mean,
But you did.
Seriously, think about it. Like these guys have a great fucking record collection. If you haven't learned anything from listening to these episodes, you should have at least figured out they have a great fucking record collection.
We do.
And if you're listening, you probably have a pretty good one. And like we it's a community. Let's share our treasures and we can all appreciate them. And I have this one beautiful record that I would just love for everybody to hear.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like that. That's actually a good idea, Justin.
All right.
Moving on.
Don't blame me for that in the future. This is your idea.
This is Justin's idea. Okay, coming in at 354, we have X-Ray Specs. The album is Germ-Free Adolescence from 1978. Teenage multiracial London girl polystyrene had braces on her teeth and wore day-glow rags, screeching anthems like "Oh Bondage Up Yours," which, side note, I find interesting because that wasn't actually on the record. That was on the bonus as a bonus track. I find interesting that they list that on the description.
And I was curious about your take because you're such an outspoken fan of bondage.
That's true. But anyways, screeching anthems like "Oh Bondage Up Yours" over saxophone blasts and chanting, "I'm a poser and I don't care. I like to make people stare." X-Ray Specs' explosive punk rock debut went criminally unreleased in the US, but it became a word-of-mouth cult classic throughout the indie rock underground in the 80s and 90s, influencing Sleater-Kinney, the Beastie Boys, and many others.
What did you think about this? I mean, seriously.
So you didn't like it based on what you the facial expression that you just
I
provided
mean,
me
what
with.
did you think
Can we
about
get a
this?
closer
I-
look at that? Can we get
honestly,
a zoom in on Mike's facial expression?
I like this.
Yeah, really?
That's and I didn't dislike this.
Why did you
But
like
did you
my
think
first
that this-
exposure to this, so it could have been a bit of the newbie, the new exposure factor.
Okay, so
but
it's brand new.
Novelty wears off. How many times did you listen to it?
4 times I listened through this
so
whole
that's-
album.
That's pretty solid. So like
Yeah.
Yeah.
when you were listening to it and decided you liked it, how did you imagine yourself listening to it in the future?
What do you mean?
So this is a job, right? Like you guys, fucking professionals that you are, you listen to these fucking records, you take some serious fucking notes, you seriously consider the cultural implications.
Well,
the
also,
musical
first of
implications.
all, when I listen to it in a setting that is not work-like setting. I listen to it in a very just I'm listening to this for enjoyment's sake.
No,
setting,
but I
you
know, but I get where you're going with
Yeah,
this.
like-
Like the idea is that like we're not listening just for the sake of listening.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
But we
we're
do it
listening-
first.
Yeah, we're listening from a critical perspective. And so if you listen to this 2, 3, 4 times in your case, and you thought to yourself, okay, I'm going to listen to this. I'm going to take notes on it. Like, I'm going to give like some serious thought to this. Are you excited about revisiting this? Is this an album that you're like, God damn it, I can't believe I had never heard this before, and because I'm gonna fucking respin this motherfucker time and time again.
So like, I'll give you an example because like I don't want to put you on the spot, but like, so I listened to it the first time and I'm like,
You can put me on the spot. It's okay.
it's not my jam. It's not my jam, and I don't think that would surprise.
Honestly, I love the singer.
I don't think
Like
it would
for me,
surprise-
the X-Ray Specs was the whatever her name is. show.
Polystyrene.
So it's the Polystyrene show. I'm a big fan of her. I think she's a fantastic front woman. I love what she does. I love how she fucking yells the name of the song at the beginning. She's like genetic engineering, and then they start the song. Like I love that. And I think
artificial yelling the fucking
her fucking energy is it's legit, and I can get behind it, and I like it. And like so, you know, the thing is like. I'm not going to listen to it a lot, but I'm going to listen to it occasionally. So much that I did add it to my digital library, and I would listen to it occasionally going forward. It's not going to be like one of my most played records, but I can see how it influenced a lot of people and why they put it on the list.
Do you think that this is the 354th greatest album of all time?
Such a specific question. You know what I mean?
Who wrote Cherry Bomb? I feel honestly,
Joan Jett.
I feel fucking terrible for not knowing
That's
the
not
answer
true.
to that.
No, she didn't answer that.
Who wrote Cherry Bomb? Because seriously, that's like this singer to me. Like if they wrote Cherry Bomb, that would make 110% sense. Because it's like I totally get the Cherry Bomb. Like
it's the Runaways.
That's right. Okay, so different band.
Which is Joan Jett,
It
right?
is Joan Jett. Yeah. No,
But,
I
like,
think you're right.
So the reason,
Of course, I'm right.
The reason I asked that question was just because if you appreciate this band as a standalone act, like, look, I like this band for what they are.
Joan Jett and Kim Fowley.
So,
by the way, I didn't mean like, of course I'm right because I'm always right. I meant like,
no,
of
but that
course
was
I'm
solid,
right
dude.
because Joan Jett wrote the Cherry Bomb song.
Well, look, we all know how JB is, and we'll just move on past it. But the reason I brought it was just like, so I hear the song and like, honestly, like it was one of those where like, I don't want to dig into the lyrics. I don't want to listen to it 2 or 3 times front to back. I listened to it once and I'm like, this is fun. This is a fun record. It's got attitude. And like, I feel like at the right setting with the right group of people, like this is a great album to just, throw in the rotation.
Yeah, no, I would listen to it again.
Like,
What'd you think, Mike?
I liked it. I hated the placement.
You think it's too high?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, seriously, like, what am I like?
It's pretty high. It's pretty high. The thing is, like, any fucking placement on this list is high, though.
You know what though? So let's and my bad. Like and you know what? It doesn't talk about it in the Rolling Stone description that you read, but when you dig into this record on Wikipedia, like this was a huge influence on Kurt Cobain. Which
it's interesting because you know the other one that was the Raincoats.
Yes,
that was a big influence, and that was what this reminded me of.
And I totally agree with you, right? Like the Raincoats and X-Ray Specs, it all felt the same. And I was also reading about people like FKA Twigs. You know, FKA Twigs refers to this particular record as one of her favorite records of all time. And so I feel like this was a record that was far more influential on British acts and British kids growing up in
Kurt Cobain.
Yeah, probably in like the 80s and 90s.
But the question is, how much music can be put on this list for the express reason that it influenced Kurt Cobain?
Yeah, and that's my
limit
fucking,
does not
dude,
exist.
Yeah.
That's my fucking beef, right?
Yeah.
Is that like I get it, and we're eventually going to get to the point where we say, Oh yeah, Kurt Cobain wrote like the most seventh fucking greatest album of all time.
Kurt
Or the
Cobain
eighth,
wrote Hard
or whatever
Shaped
it is.
Box.
You're gonna horrifically lose your fucking bet, which is painfully obvious at this point in time.
The
Well-
bet? What bet?
I just think okay,
The bet about Nirvana.
but everybody
We didn't have
remember-
any bet about it.
Everybody
Yeah, we did.
remember
And you're gonna fucking lose horrifically on that bet.
who wrote this list.
Rolling Stone did.
Because but Rolling Stone wrote it by polling a bunch of industry insiders,
Yeah.
which inherently, because people die.
There's still an editorial staff.
Yeah, it's an editorial
This is
staff.
Rolling Stone.
People die, so you have this natural recency bias. So like Nirvana, I feel like, and also anybody that was even remotely novel between the 80s and today is going to be very, to me, they're going to be overranked. They're going to be ranked way higher than they should be.
Well, and to me, that's what this screams of. I'm not saying that this shouldn't be on the list, right? But what I am saying is that 354, no. How about 454? How about 474?
and I'm not- And
How about
as far as
464?
as far as placement, I don't feel strongly about
Well,
the position.
Today, I want to bring up an issue here, and I think it's pervasive in pop culture, and I wonder how it affects the list. So I'm sure we're all well aware of like gender bias and sex bias in pop culture, but like
Nope.
nope doesn't.
I'm just kidding.
I
Sorry.
don't know.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Not a thing. But no, but
I had to do it. I apologize. Go on.
No. So really,
My wiener means nothing to my opinion.
Well, the question is, so I think that back in the day, right? When we're talking about punk rock, which really, was founded in the early 70s, but it had very few godfathers or grandfathers or whatever we want to say. I think because of some gender biases, like it's hard, you look at the Sex Pistols, and I don't know, maybe the Who as early. The Clash, that's a great one. Like I think
The Ramones.
We look at that as the godfathers of punk, and do we pay enough attention to like the less
To the women.
Exactly. Like do we pay enough attention to the less likely pioneers, just because not only were people not looking that direction at the time, but we're still not looking that direction.
Listen, I love where you're going with this, because this is absolutely a godmother of punk.
Yes.
Right? Because that's what this is. But
Definitely.
we just got done talking about metal,
That's true. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How many fucking punk albums are we going to get on this list where everybody's like, oh shit, punk is so fucking important. We got to have Black Flag. We got to have the Ramones. We got to have X-Ray Specs. We got to have all shit. For I'm fucking even Talking Heads, right? Because Talking Heads is like,
No, you lost me right there.
really?
What?
Absolutely.
What?
That's new wave. That's new wave. That's a different genre
Oh, hold on.
entirely.
No, fuck you.
Sorry, repeat that.
Those are
Fuck you
kissing
guys.
cousins.
No.
Punk and new wave are not kissing cousins.
You're telling me Talking Heads is punk.
I'm telling
Yeah.
you that Talking Heads is influenced by
Well, no.
punk.
How about
Okay,
How about this? Instead of
Rock
that,
is influenced by punk.
Talking
everything
Heads.
is influenced.
Dick.
Lots of music is influenced by punk. Talking Heads is not punk.
Well, how about this? Talking Heads would take the place of a punk album on this list.
I don't even know what you're saying right now. That's a different genre of music entirely.
Well, what I'm saying is like it's an album that without early punk might not exist, because I feel like honestly
Without early punk.
yeah, to say that the lyrical themes,
What's early punk? What are you talking about?
The Ramones,
the Ramones,
the Sex
the
Pistols,
Sex Pistols,
even the Clash,
whatever,
like
anything-
early Clash.
literally anything.
Talking
Mike
Heads
is
is not
about to
punk.
say.
Talking Heads is new wave rock.
No,
It's not even the
no,
same thing
no.
at all.
No, but to
I
say
gotta be. It's
to
not
say
even
that
close.
to say that
I'm not there at all.
no,
dude.
dude, listen to me. To say that the lyrical themes of the Talking Heads would have been totally natural, totally original without what came before in the punk rock
Yeah.
world, to me is fucking absurd. There's no
Yeah.
fucking way you could say
We're not
that.
talking about lyrical
Justin's
things. We're talking
right.
about musical style.
Well,
No,
we're talking
but
about the music
You-
siloing
you
it
can't.
off.
Yeah, you can't say that
The thing
lyrics
is, I was
are one.
with. I was about to be like, yes. Talking Heads.
No,
And I was
but-
Ladies
like,
and
wait a
gentlemen, this is
second.
going to be
Listen,
JB's
time
last
out.
podcast.
Time out. I'm going to circle this back
This is
around
my fucking
right
podcast.
here to X-Ray Specs. Like they're the perfect example where you can hear some new wave in what they're doing.
100%. In fact, a lot of it.
You can also hear punk in what they're doing.
Definitely. But I don't know what that has to do with Talking Heads.
Listen, all I'm saying is that the two genres of punk and new wave are kissing cousins. So
certain varieties of new wave.
So if
Certain
you're willing,
varieties.
so if you're willing to admit that a band like X-Ray Specs taps into both punk and new wave,
Yeah,
then you have to be willing to admit that Talking Heads, where they're a predominantly new wave act, taps into punk. And if you don't think that if you don't think that
there are tiny aspects of it, I think we could argue about this all fucking night.
Listen,
We could.
I think we hold on, pause. I think we could argue about this all night, but I think that there are kissing cousin variants within multiple genres. There are little kissing cousins between rock and punk. There are kissing cousins between rock and metal. There are kissing cousins between punk and metal. There are kissing cousins between rock and new wave. You can find fucking kissing cousins everywhere. It doesn't mean that Talking Heads is a punk band.
I think
if you'd like to kiss JB's cousins, you can write him a letter. His address.
I think
probably won't tell
that punk and new wave are closer when you talk about just like the spectrum of music. I think that punk and new wave get closer to each other than punk and metal do.
Oh yeah, but the problem is that punk and new wave are such general genres. Like, do you know how fucking like are you gonna equate like Green Day and Black Flag? I mean, there are such differences.
No, fuck you.
There are some similarities, but there are
Green Day and Black Flag.
There's so many differences. You can tell me there's not.
But there's way more similarities.
There are certainly some similarities.
There's way more.
My point is, I'm trying to draw.
You picked a terrible example.
That is a bad.
I don't think so.
You picked a terrible example.
I disagree.
Black Flag, fucking Monday Night Football, that goddamn song with Green Day, fucking Brain Stew.
Black Flag is like a dark.
Hold on, neither of them are on the fucking list right now. Like, let's just hold on. Let's hold that one for.
I don't think it's a bad. Hold on, just pause a sec. My point was within the same genre.
You're getting too emotional. You need to calm down.
Am I emotional?
JB has tears in his eyes.
Super emotional.
You probably can't see it on camera, but these men are both weeping.
You know what? I'm gonna mute his mic, guys. I apologize. I apologize for Justin. But anyways, my point with Green Day is very different from Black Flag. I hope nobody disagrees with me there. Come on, guys.
And that one is a Green Day, and the other is a Black Flag.
Yeah, we're just gonna mute his mic. But
don't do that. We can't do that to our guests.
Anyways,
that's so rude to our guests.
It's actually muted.
If you can hear me, they muted me.
Stop.
Okay,
censorship.
You weren't supposed to talk.
Censorship.
Time out.
You were supposed to talk. But anyways,
so sorry.
My point is that within these genres, there is a huge variance. Which there's a huge variance between Green Day and Black Flag. If you disagree with that, you're wrong. There's a huge difference between the two bands. Okay, my point is with there being such a huge variance between those two bands within the same genre, there's obviously going to be overlaps between bands that are considered one genre and another. But I don't know how we're equating
musically, but
X-Ray Specs to Talking Heads.
Musically, but not thematically.
Really?
Yeah.
Musically, but not.
I'm not there
thematically. Do you know what I'm saying? They're different musically, but they are not different thematically.
Yeah. Listen, Justin's right.
What do you mean thematically? What are the themes that are similar between the two?
Fucking angry.
No, it's not even just anger, right? It's like the idea of creating an alternative perspective to the mainstream view.
Yeah.
There's no way that you can fucking argue that Talking Heads was not mainstream in any way, shape, or form.
When did I say that?
I'm not putting words in your mouth.
Tape,
no, stop.
Okay, I do gotta say
putting words in your mouth.
No.
I do gotta say one thing.
Is not mainstream. right?
We got
So
a
from that
comment.
standpoint, like X-Ray Specs, what they're doing is X-Ray Specs is like they're trying to present this antithesis to the mainstream. Does that make
So thematically,
sorry.
you're saying that's what Talking Heads was doing similarly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Similarly.
Listen,
Similarly.
if you're calling what X-Ray Specs was doing was punk in any way,
If you're
shape, or
saying
form,
similar in that way, then I'm not going to disagree. But
and I'm not talking musically, right? And Justin nailed it. Justin said thematically, right?
even
It's
that
the
though, I don't know if I
theme.
agree. It's just it was a little too quick of a comparison for me to be comfortable with that.
To what?
Listen, give it some thought. I'm not telling you to come up with
Apologize.
I'm not telling you to come up with a definitive answer today, but I think that if you really give it like some critical thought about what the writers of the music, right? The intention behind the intention behind the music. I don't think that they're like, I really think that they're coming from the same camps. And that's not to say that Talking Heads is punk. That's not what I'm saying. And Talking Heads in particular, like that band is you can't pigeonhole that band.
You can't at all, and that was my problem. Was that that's what you were saying?
No,
I think,
but
that's
at the end of the
power
day,
behind this
like
group.
that's and that's the thing, right?
you say?
Like the power behind Talking Heads is that
Well, not,
they
not
are
just Talking
punk.
Heads, but like this group that we're talking
Oh,
about.
X-Ray
Specs.
X-Ray Specs. It's like we've been arguing for a while about like how did they influence Talking Heads, or how did like Talking Heads influence it? But you know what? A group of like British women, like fucking just, I don't know, like punked the shit out of punk and rock all at once, and
Yeah,
they made the list.
super true, dude.
And honestly, I think if you strip away the entire conversation of influence that they may have had or may have been influenced by, I think they still end up on this list, because I listened to this and I was just like, this is fucking fun.
It is.
But where
fun.
do you put them? Do you like this placement?
No, I will say I think it's too high. I do
Okay.
think it's too high, but like I listened to it and I'm like, you know what? In the realm of punk rock, like this deserves to be here. It deserves to be heard.
I agree with you.
Yeah, the shitty thing is, like, I was
I agree.
totally agreeing with Mike until he said the Talking Heads comment. But in that's what sparked this whole argument.
I know.
Okay, but
I know.
up until you said the Talking Heads
too
thing,
high a watermark.
I was
to
with you,
compare to
and I
the
think it is
Talking
definitely
Heads.
too high. We all think it's too high. We all think it should be lower.
Correct.
At least 100 places, probably, right?
I'm not
Probably-
gonna pontificate on that. I'm just gonna say like
80 to 100.
it was good to hear, a young female group expressing anger, because too often, and that this is just the fucking nature of music on this list and just in general, it's angry young men yelling.
Yeah.
If you want rock and
That's
roll,
very true.
if you want metal, if you want punk, you've got some angry young men and they're yelling.
Yeah.
I do want to read a couple things because I'm going to read Rex's thoughts, but first of all, I'm going to read Lee's thoughts because Lee commented on the video.
Okay.
And
go.
he said, I just logged on. IDK what the argument is, but JB is right. And then after that, he
Fuck
said,
you, JB.
JB is right. Get over it, Mike.
Wow. Okay. So that's completely fucking.
And that was after he had been listening for a little bit. So that was
that's
like
a totally worthless argument because he's not saying anything. He's just saying JB's right. Get over it, Mike.
it's just support for me.
Okay. That's wonderful.
Which you don't
Congratulations.
deserve at all, by the way.
Hey,
I
if
don't-
you
I don't
want,
know why you get
I can
appreciate
crawl
that.
under the table and fucking jerk you off too if you want me to.
That would be great. Could you do that?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Sure. Just hang on.
so
just a
guys,
second. Let me take off my headphones.
Guys, if
I'm
you
closer, but
if
my
you notice
feet are
Mike
very
disappearing
quick.
underneath the table, don't be alarmed. He's just jerking me off. All right, so we're gonna read Rex's thoughts on X-Ray Specs, which is whoa, whoa, whoa. At first, I thought this band was trying to use some bagpipes on "Hey Bondage Up Yours." Then I realized it must be a saxophone. This band has a clean, polished sound. The lead singer has a pretty vibrato and a strong vocals. I'm very impressed with this album. Fuck yes, I now regret listening to this bullshit list a little less.
I agree with Rex.
Yeah.
I fucking dude, listen.
Because we didn't even talk about the saxophone.
I know. And the
That's true, yeah.
saxophone was actually the lead guitar.
Punk with saxophone. That deserves a fucking mention.
No,
Like
not
you said,
even.
the saxophone is the lead guitar.
The saxophone was the lead guitar.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yes.
I feel bad that honestly, I feel like thank God for fucking Rex, because holy
I know.
shit, I can't believe we didn't bring up fucking Punk with a saxophone.
Yeah, I don't know how we didn't mention that. It's insane. Like that would have been the first thing we said.
What was your favorite track on this
My
record?
favorite track on this one was either Let's Submerge or I Can't Do Anything.
How about you, Justin? Did you have a favorite?
Oh man. You know, this might even sound like a diss, but I really do mean it as a compliment. There's not a single song I want to listen to. I just want to actually own it and play it.
Interesting.
Like I just want to play, what was it, 8 tracks front to back.
I love
16 tracks.
I love Germ-Free Adolescence.
Oh yeah, because they're all like fucking.
That was
2
a
minutes
commonly
long.
covered track. Yeah.
I know. And that's the thing. Like and I know that was a track that was covered, like No Effects covered that track.
Actually,
a
I
bunch.
gave that one the most stars.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that. I don't know how I missed
Yeah,
that.
I don't subscribe.
I gave
to
that
your
one 5
fucking
stars.
star
I know.
method.
And I gave it
don't-
4. Like I really, really fucking love that track. And there
Scrub
was
away, scrub away, scrub
Yes.
away. Like
Yeah.
dude, it
when
was
Mike
so
asked me that,
fucking catchy.
I just looked through my list and I somehow missed that. I gave Let's Submerge 3. I gave I Can't Do Anything 3, but I missed that I gave Germ-Free Adolescence 5. That's my favorite by far.
Yeah.
I don't really do the by song. Like I know that you guys do like the track listing star thing, but like to me, it's just like I just imagine myself like, do I have the LP? Do I play it front to back?
Yeah. I get that.
And to me, there's
While you read Cars, I'm gonna step out. I'll be right back.
there's a bunch of
Okay.
parties that I've, you know, we're very lucky in Brooklyn. A lot of our friends have been vaccinated, and we've been vaccinated, and my girlfriend's family's been vaccinated, and so we've had some people over, and we've had some great gatherings where, you know, we just open up a record cabinet and we say, hey, pick a
and
record.
just play a record.
Yeah, and this
That's
is
the best type of party, dude.
yeah. And this is a record where I'd be pleased if someone picked it. Like, hey,
Yes.
can you play this like Germ-Free Adolescence?
I don't disagree. My biggest beef with this is just the placement of it. You know,
I agree.
I don't have beef with this album.
Yeah.
I'm totally fine with this album appearing on this list. I just think it's probably 80 to 100 places too high for me.
Yeah.
You know,
So I do think that like, so like obviously this is a list that's been revised. You know, when they do the first one in like 03, and then they
Yep.
did it again in like 11 or 12 or something.
2012. Yeah.
12, yeah. So like I feel like, you know, PC caught up with them, right? And that's not a bad thing. You know, like I think, you know, depending on
Times they are changing.
yeah, depending on how you feel about it, like, you know what, frankly, it's pretty fucking obvious there's underrepresentation of several, you know, either, you know, in legal terms protected classes, or, you know, in general terms just, you know, minorities across all kinds of spectrums, whether it's artistic or political or otherwise. And so I think when we look at this list, this revised list versus what they did in the early 2000s, I think it makes a lot of sense that you're going to see more women involved. And I don't think it's because,
And they should be.
yeah. And also more people of color, which, I mean, I will say more so than women, like people of color, like, holy fuck, the blues, funk, R&B, rock and roll, they invented
Rap.
every
Rap.
single, they invented all of these genres.
I know.
Of course they should be fucking recognized.
Yeah.
But this time I feel like they more so like wanted to recognize women, and I think that's totally fucking fair.
Especially within this context, right? Because you're talking about the late 70s, you're talking about new wave / punk, and that was totally dominated by white males.
Yeah.
And so, listen, I'm a big fan of it. I like it. I just question the placement of it, and I think categorically, it deserves to be on the list. It's just a little higher than what I wanted to
Yeah.
see. You know,
I just want to say to all the men that might say that this belongs lower, if you are a straight man, consider, would you have a wife and or children if all you did was listen to the music that your wife didn't like, that you loved? The answer is no.
So Justin commented and said, should JB drink more wine or more White Claws? I'm going to have both, Justin.
after the
And
spill, I mean, it definitely deserves to be both.
And then
I
Lee,
feel like you should lick the table entirely.
Lee said Claws, But then he also had a very actual good point,
Yeah,
which is he said, if you want to be more inclusive, why isn't there more jazz? That's the big issue for me.
I would say
I don't disagree. There's a lot of jazz
not our
missing from
fucking
this list.
Don't even get me started on jazz because
Not
I
our
picked up
list.
an amazing. Okay, listen, I'm going to read 353 here really quick, but
That's
I
a good
have to
idea.
take a quick timeout and say Miles Davis Sextet live at the Plaza Hotel.
There's
Fuck
not a
off.
lot of live albums on this record, though.
Dude,
There's precedent to deny live albums.
fuck off.
Not
I
that
literally.
one.
I
so-
don't think they
Not
should
that
be
one.
denied, but I'm saying
my beautiful, amazing wife bought this for me for Father's Day. And god damn it, JB, like I'll give it to you before I take off because it is,
you should do that.
it's fucking obscene, dude. Like so fucking obscene because it's early Miles. It's before he got really fucking weird, and it's the sextet that has John Coltrane in it. I mean, it is, it's a fucking monster, dude, and it's so fire.
But yeah,
so fire.
I want to. You should lend that to me because I want to hear it.
No, you will. You will.
Absolutely.
You'll get it. It's hot fire.
But my point, what I'm saying is there's not a lot of live records on here.
No, absolutely not. Although we get into it
I
next
bet
week.
you $1 billion
Do we?
Donny Hathaway live at the Troubadours on this.
The
What the
MC5.
fuck are you talking about?
The MC5.
Donny Hathaway live at the Troubadour.
The MC5 from next week is live, and it's hot,
Is it?
dude. It's fucking hot. Dude.
Okay.
I'm super excited about it.
All right, let's move on.
Okay, 353 from 1978, the debut album from The Cars. Rolling Stone says, quote, we used to joke that the first album should be called The Cars, end quote, greatest hits. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I totally fucked that up. Okay. Rolling Stone says, quote, we used to joke that the first album should be called The Cars Greatest Hits, end quote, said guitarist Elliot Easton. Their debut was arty and punchy enough to be part of Boston's new wave scene, and yet so catchy that nearly every track, My Best Friend's Girl, Just When I Needed, landed on the radio. When Rick Ocasek died in 2019, Eason offered a fitting tribute. Quote, if the goal was to have great success making pop music with a sense of irony, then mission accomplished, right? End quote. That is the jam of all jams. If you're watching on YouTube, this really is a fucking comedy of errors. If you're watching on YouTube, we have managed to just semi-partially destroy Justin's microphone, and now
We're it's under control. Don't
That's
worry about
okay,
it.
ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
I'm all too familiar.
Yeah, Justin
I'm
somehow.
not. Just kidding.
We're gonna fix it. Don't worry, guys. Continue with what you were saying, Mike.
Oh, I was just saying that the debut from The Cars from 1978 might be the most underrated album that I've encountered on this list. Just
Quite
yet.
possibly. Because I didn't even know it was the thing. And the thing is,
I know.
like, I knew all of these songs.
Every
but I
one of
didn't-
them, right?
Yeah, you knew all of them.
You didn't
Every
know,
one of them.
You didn't know all of them. You did. I'm sure. I bet Mike, you did, but you
Yes.
didn't.
Wow, that was a slight to me right there.
Fuck yeah! I'm insulting you to your face.
He's insulting me
On
directly.
live television or whatever we got. Going.
I guess we know if you'll be coming back on this fucking podcast or not.
I mean, if
No
I live here
is
now,
the answer,
I
no.
fucking live here. Like it's
doesn't live
cheaper
here,
it's
and
cheaper
he's not
for
living-
you to let me on.
Still, I'll pay money to not have you on.
Good money, and that's what counts.
Anyways, we're joking around here. Me and Justin will go way back.
We're literally not kidding. We have a strictly financial relationship, and it ends there.
Justin, what'd you think about this record?
I will say so I came to visit this weekend, and I'm super fucking thrilled about that. Very, very happy to be here. We had such a good time at 801. But apart from that,
Love you, Lee.
apart from that, and how much I hate being in your presence.
God, Lee, these guys are hard on me. You gotta have some sympathy for me.
Claus, yeah, he doesn't want you to have the good wine. He wants you to have.
Did you see Lee's comment just now?
He wants you to have Claus. If you want to be more inclusive, why isn't there more jazz?
After that,
Team JB.
Team JB.
Well, Lee, I don't think you know what I know, and if you'd like to text me, I'll tell you all the dirty secrets about JB Williams and the shallow grave diggers. because that's not an uncommon affiliation. That's kind
The
of
Big Coffin Hunters.
the Big Coffin Hunters and the Shallow Grave Diggers. That's JB Williams and the Shallow Grave Diggers.
Okay. Either way, what are your thoughts on the Cars, Justin? Very specifically.
Okay, so I want to say, and I think it's fair that I give context. So I'm fuck. How old am I? I'm
29.
I'm 29. I'm 29 years old, and my parents, to their credit, did not by any means shield me from their terrible 80s music. But this album by the Cars, they did somehow, like, I never heard the Cars by the Cars. And so I listened to this album front to back, cold listen, or what do you guys call it?
Cold listen.
Cold listen. Okay, yeah. Hey, fuck, I'm an insider. Yeah, I'm cool.
Yeah, you are.
I'm cool. Fuck yeah. And I I did a cold listen, and I was so fucking into it. Oh my god. Because I'm a guitar guy. For those that don't know, JB, I think it started maybe when I was a junior in high school. JB and I were really good friends. He taught me how to play guitar. And so I forever since then, first I was a bass player in his band because I was just a bad guitar player. So that means you're the bass player, which is not to slight Mike, by the way. I want to say, like, if you're a good bass player, you play bass. If you're a shitty guitar player that wishes you were in a band, then you attempt to play bass. It's different. Those are two different things.
Geezer Butler was a bad guitar player that played bass.
No,
okay.
Geezer Butler was a fucking legend, but but either way, like that's how I got started, like, being serious about, like, listening to music and eventually playing music, and it's all to do with JB, who I'm sure some of you listening, he probably gives you lessons, and you're very fucking lucky for that. But what I really loved about this album, I listened to it, never played any of the songs, and because of the tutelage that I had from JB, I was able to pick out the key, learn how to play the songs, just the rhythmically, like, pick out the vocal melody. And then, songs like Just What I Needed. We all know Just What I Needed, right? Like that's such a popular song, but like that guitar solo in that song, tell me another fucking 80s song. Seriously, I challenge either of you right now, Mike and JB, tell me an 80s song where there is a more, just where is there a better guitar solo? Like, it's so compact. It's so perfectly fit into the song and into the album where, like, you couldn't ask for anything more. It's so tight. It's not exploratory. It's just like, this is a pop song. This is a guitar
This
solo.
is not even meant to be a rebuttal to what you just said, because I agree 100%. But maybe a couple Dire Straits tunes.
Yes,
There's a couple.
Go fuck yourself.
I love Dire Straits.
Go fuck.
There are a couple tunes.
I love Dire Straits too. I will say that.
There are a couple tunes we listened to on one of the Dire Straits records that was on this list
Brothers in Arms.
that are similar in style and quality and time frame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this was 7 years before Brothers in Arms. And that, to me, is the difference maker between all this.
7 years before. So
Yeah.
Brothers in Arms 1985.
Yeah, this was 1978.
78.
Dude.
I know that. Yeah.
That's the part that amazes me about this album. Like, for 1978, this album sounds like it was recorded in 1984. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just the guitar. It's the tone of the guitar. It's the tone of the synth. It's the way that they're mixing the guitar and the synth and the vocals together. And let's not forget that when you listen to this record, you think, oh yeah, Rick Ocasek, he's a really good lead singer.
Yeah. It's like they just heard the sound in their heads before anybody else did.
Yeah.
This is going to be one of those unexpected circle jerks.
Wait a minute, though.
I think so, yeah.
There's multiple lead singers. Rick Ocasek didn't sing lead on all these songs.
No,
Yeah.
Rick Ocasek sang lead on half these songs. The other half of these songs was sang by Benjamin Orr, who is the bass player of the band. So when you listen to the first two tracks on here, right, you get Good Times Roll, you get Best Friend's Girl. Wonderful fucking tracks.
Bangers right off the bat.
Super fucking hot bangers sang by Rick Ocasek. But then Just When I Needed sounds just the fucking same way. But oh, by the way, that's the bass player. That's Benjamin Orr
Okay.
singing lead vocals.
Really?
Okay,
It's not the fucking same lead singer.
but seriously, the absence.
Dude, I'm being dead serious. It's not the same
Okay, that's
lead
weird
singer.
because it sounds the
sure.
same.
I know it does.
Yeah.
the
But that's
absence
like,
of the
dude,
guitar
that's the
solo.
magic here, right?
The absence
Yes.
of the guitar solo makes it's like it's such a fucking void.
Do you think it's a void that
I do, because I listened to that. I listened to that album, and we come from two different schools of thought.
yeah.
And like, I as much as anybody love a rhythm section that has their shit together. And the Cars, I would never suggest otherwise. That's a rhythm section that has their shit together. But what differentiates the Cars from hundreds of other 80s acts?
They did it first.
I agree. They did it
Time
first,
out.
but
And
it's the
I
guitar
love
player.
your statement,
It's a
though.
fucking guitar player. To me, it's the guitar player.
Listen, I get where you're coming from, but you just said it. What differentiates the Cars from from countless others 80s acts? It's the fact that this was done in 1978.
I agree. It's novel.
This
It's
music created the sound that you got ubiquitously within the 1980s, and this was done years prior. And
Yeah.
that to me is the magic of this album. This album is criminally underrated in my opinion.
Yeah, because we didn't even know of it. That's
I
the thing.
know.
Did you know of it, Justin? Like, was this on your radar?
No, seriously, until I heard it, I never would have thought about it.
It wasn't on my radar. I'll tell you
This
that.
album, in my opinion, and you guys are gonna fucking hate me for this. You'll crucify me to death for this.
As if we needed more ammo.
I know. This is 100 spots too low.
100 spots.
Seriously?
This is 100 spots too
Having
low.
listened to it
No.
fucking sick. I'm not even kidding, 6 fucking times since like Tuesday. Because like I fucking flew here. So like
I know.
I listened to this and like, I had my homework. I was like, okay, I gotta listen to the Cars, I gotta listen to like Black Sabbath. I'd already heard Black Sabbath 100 fucking times. Now, which is not a complaint. Like I'm a metal
Right.
guy. I love
I know.
metal. If I'm in the gym, I'm listening to metal. But
Really?
well, for sure. Fuck
I listen to a lot of hip hop in the gym.
I would say for anybody that's listening, if you're in the gym and you're a metal guy, if not Black Sabbath, seriously check out oh my god, I'm gonna fucking blank their name because I'm a fucking piece of shit.
You deserve this right now.
You deserve it, you piece of shit.
King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Fuck, it was the. I'm not even kidding. I'm not even kidding.
Infinity.
King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
Is that even a
Narnia
band?
on
Did you just make
Infinity.
that up?
I'm not even fucking kidding. That's a real. Hold on.
Who? You just made that band up. That's
No,
not
he
real.
didn't. King
That's
Gizzard.
not a real
No,
band.
that's a real dude. That's our best friend Matt. That's his
Why are you
favorite
fucking with him?
fucking band.
That's terrible.
We've been talking about this band a lot lately,
I know.
Justin. Me and Mike.
Don't
And
fuck with
Okay,
him.
you fucking made me
That's terrible.
panic.
we're big Keith Gizzard.
Why would you even
Wait a minute.
fucking
God
do
damn it.
that to
Wait,
me?
stop.
Why
Where are
would
going
you
with
even
this?
do that?
I would do that to you because I think it's really, really fun.
Okay. What was King Gizzard's last metal album?
Infest the
Infest
Rat
the
Nest.
Rat's Nest.
Infest the Rest. Oh my god, thank you so much. Okay, so
We both
Their
said
love
it.
note.
You don't have to
their
think just Mike.
Okay,
You can think
so-
their love note to thrash metal, by the way.
yes. So our dear friend, and honestly, I would say our best friend. Like,
Why am
feel
I
like
getting left out of this fucking wine party?
You wanted
Okay.
some wine? Give
Here.
him some wine.
Jesus.
Jesus.
okay,
Anyways.
so our best friend, I would call him our best friend. He's like
yeah,
our,
we have you'll meet him
our
at some
best
point,
friend.
Mike. A close friend of ours.
I would say
Matt Rose.
our best friend.
Yeah, sure. Go for it. Say it.
Okay, so he's our best friend, Matt Rose. So he's a huge fucking fan of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. He's who I saw Sturgill with in Austin.
Okay.
And so he's a cool guy, right? But so he turns me on. He turns me on to Infest the Rat's Nest, and I'm a huge fucking metalhead.
Yeah.
I mean, when I work out, it's all Iron Maiden. It's all metallic, like early '80s Metallica.
Holy shit.
And then he turns me on to this Infest the Rat's Nest, and I'm like, that's the real fucking deal. Like that.
Yeah.
Seriously, they're not fucking around. Like
It's legit.
it's riff heavy metal. Like it's really like
It's thrash.
yeah, you're right. It's
thrash.
it is thrash metal, and
It's
it
a
is-
love note to fucking like legit
it
thrash
is
metal.
So fucking good.
But tie this back into the
So
Cars.
good.
Where are you going with this?
Fucking nowhere. But what I would
God
say
damn
about
you,
the
you fucking bastard.
So-
Let's take
okay.
a quick pause
Son of a
because
bitch.
I got some stuff that's going down
Hot
in the
trash.
YouTube comments.
Hot trash in
Oh,
YouTube.
shit.
YouTube comments going on.
Shit.
Honestly, it's pretty. You're gonna like it, Mike.
Okay.
All right. So Lee commented, and Lee said they created '80s pop rock, and then everyone else
Yes.
ruined it.
That's
Yeah.
fair. That's
That's
fair.
interesting. But then Rex Todd commented and said, "This album is way too low." But then I'm confused because he said
a number that's higher.
he
than
said
where
a number
they are
that's
on the
higher.
list.
He said this album is way too low, around
hated it.
410 to 400.
Yeah. Rex,
So
I think
Lee
he
is
means
right.
too low in the numbers. I think he means it's too high. Is what he's trying to
That's
say.
right. Okay, so let me.
So, but then there's more. Okay, before we read Rex. All right. So then Lee Stamper commented back and said, "Fire sent the lines," and then Lee said, "Go home, Rex. You're drunk. This thing needs to be moved up, if anything." And then Rex Todd says, "Negative, Mister. My Chemical Romance should be at number 150.
Okay,
You're
stop.
drunk. Go find a car and speed it through a crowded school playground."
Okay, hang on.
I would just say you're probably both drunk.
Anybody-
and also
And then Rex
already
Todd
at home.
says, hashtag prepare for blood dripping in the pudding.
Okay, that's what I was just gonna say. This is literally a precursor to fucking Pudding War 1.0. So, Rex and Lee,
You guys are
Listen.
gonna fucking kill each other.
I know, continue to talk trash. I do want to jump to Rex because
I'm gonna
my opinion, yes, please do. My opinion
right
is just
right now.
Go do it. Go do it. Go
I mean-
do it. Let Mike,
I mean,
In
if
front
you
of everybody.
okay, I mean that's fine too.
I don't think you're gonna get,
Would
get
you
us
like a
kicked off
cup?
YouTube, but just go deal with that, Justin. I trust you can handle it. And well,
All right. So Rex said, Jesus Christ. Okay. So Rex said, why is this so low? As in too close to 300 on this list? Just because their first album had a number of hits? What are other hits? Not on this album that they have. Is that what they're doing now? Giving out participation trophies? Grand, splendid. Don't put this album so close to 300. My regret has now doubled for listening to this bullshit list. So, okay. My only retort to Rex, because Rex obviously really hates the fact that this album is so close to 300. I have already espoused my belief that this album should be closer to 250, which
Yes.
for the record, by the way, it was much closer to 250 on the very first list that they released in 2003. My support of moving this album up comes from the fact that this album informed almost all pop rock music from the 1980s. You don't have any of like the pop rock music from the 80s without the Cars. And this album was so far ahead of its time, particularly when you think about Moving in Stereo, which for me, by the way, like I put 5 stars next to this record. And just so that everybody knows, Good Times Roll, 4 stars. My Best Friends Grow Up, 4 stars. Just When I Needed, 4 stars. You're All I've Got Tonight, 3 stars. Bye Bye Love, 4 stars. Moving in Stereo, 5 stars. And then all mixed
want to
up.
hear mine?
Yeah. I want to hear what you get.
Good Times Roll, 3 stars.
Okay.
Best Friends Girl, 2 stars. I think it's a little overrated. Not my favorite. Just What I Needed, 5. That's a fantastic song.
I love it.
Okay, 5 stars on that. I'm In Touch with Your World. Great song, 2 stars.
I gave 1.
I give it 2. Don't Just Stop, 4 stars.
What?
Don't Just Stop. Don't Just Stop. Such a fun chorus, dude. I love
it
that
too.
song.
I mean, I gave it 2 stars just because it, like, I don't know.
You're All I've Got Tonight, 1. Not my favorite track.
Really?
Bye Bye Love,
4.
5-star
5.
song.
Okay.
One
4.
of my favorite on the record.
dude.
Bye
That
Bye
fucking
Love.
song is a
If you're
banger.
asking for my favorite tracks on this record, it's Just What I Needed and Bye Bye Love equally.
And
There's
Don't
no,
Just Stop.
I'm not saying one's higher than the other.
And Don't Just Stop.
What about
Don't Just
Moving in
Stop. Don't Just
Stereo?
Stop is up there too. Moving in Stereo,
Nah.
3 stars. I liked it a lot. And 3 stars was good. Just to be clear, me and my I want
I know.
to reiterate because there's
I
been a
know.
little bit of confusion with me and Mike's star system. We don't have a traditional star system. 1
No.
star doesn't mean bad. Because
No.
I've heard some people that were like, "Oh, you only give it 1 star." That means like you hear like movie star systems, and you think 1 star means the worst case scenario.
No, listen.
And then
I don't like if it's
we
a
don't
shitty song,
star it. Yeah.
I don't even fucking give it a star.
So
if
for
it
Mike and I,
sucks.
so for Mike
It's
and
more
I,
of a Michelin system.
Yes.
it's more of a Michelin
Yeah.
system. So for Mike and I, if it gets a star,
That's good.
that means it stands out.
yeah.
And if it gets more than 1 stars, good on you. It really stands out. If it gets 5 stars, it's perfect.
That's a fucking banger, dude. It's literally, 5 stars is literally like a song that if I give a song 5 stars, I will listen to that anytime, anywhere. I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't give a fuck if I'm sad, if I'm happy, if I'm depressed, if I'm elated. Like, if that song has 5 stars, like, if you put that shit on, I will I will be enthralled that you're playing this music for me.
Yeah. It's good shit. I added it to digital because I was so surprised about it. Like, and I would love it on digital. I would love it on vinyl. This band is really good. It's good. It's like good rock and roll from the 80s or late 70s.
And that's okay. So that's my point.
And it's new wave.
Like, okay. This is music that sounds like it's from the 80s.
But it's from the 70s.
Yeah.
It's from, and it's not even like 1979.
That's
into
78.
1980.
That's why it's on this
This
list.
is from 78, dude. Like, this music, this whole fucking record was so far ahead of its time. It informed an entire generation of rock music. And it did it while rock was still thinking about things like Aerosmith rocks, which is not bad.
Yeah,
It's not bad.
It went away from blues rock. I think it was like it
That's
proved.
That's the interesting thing about
That's
what
it,
we're
yeah.
doing here is that we're able to just compare and we're able to look at the dates. And just like Mike said, like Aerosmith, like people were thinking about that and not this, you know?
It's, dude, it's so
Because what was that? What was that? 78? Or was it 77? It doesn't matter. You don't have to look it up, but it was like it was the late 70s, and that was probably a lot more on people's radars than this.
76. So literally 2 years before this was Aerosmith Rocks. And rock sounds so conventional.
But at the same time, like maybe you didn't know this record, but you probably knew more songs from this record than you did from the Aerosmith record.
Well,
is that right?
I'll be honest.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But the question
me,
is,
no.
when did you think
For you know.
that this album was recorded?
Exactly. It's like I would have like so when I knew the hits, right? Like I grew up with the hits. My parents liked the hits, and I would have thought, you know, Aerosmith like came way before. But seriously, you listen to the hits of this album, and they really do sound like 80s hits.
Yes.
But the thing is, they were fucking written, performed, and recorded in the 70s.
So they're recorded and released
Yeah.
in 78, which means that they were recorded
Well,
in
77.
early 78 or 77,
Yeah.
written
or
in-
earlier.
written in fucking even earlier. And that's the part that crushes me.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I don't think that Rick Ocasek gets enough credit for just how forward thinking he was
Yeah.
Right.
in
right.
terms of the sound of this record, because this record sounds like every rock pop record from the 80s. But god damn it, like this was thought like years before that. And that's where I want to see this motherfucker like 100 points too low.
That's where I
So-
think this one
250.
is definitely like it's like this is here because of I feel like this place because I agree with you, it's too low. This place is earned by its like current musical quality. But if you were to really score it based on influence, it'd be higher.
Banger.
Well, that I
Way
think that's
fucking
probably why
higher.
it's here.
Well, I think it's too low. If you
Because
say
again, like I don't know if you've listened to a lot of episodes. You know my argument. My argument is that there's two reasons.
it's wrong, but
What
I'd
are the
love
two
to hear it
reasons
again.
for an album to be on this list? Content,
Or influence.
impact.
Yeah.
There's only two. What else is there? Nothing.
There's nothing
right?
else.
No, you're right.
There's
literally
either
nothing else.
there's either content or impact, and there is certainly
I'm saying this-
intermingling
this
of those
packs
two.
both.
There's certainly
look-
intermingling of those two,
Look at the
but those are the
timing of
only
it.
two reasons, and most of the time it's one or the other.
It's one or the other, but this album fucking rips both.
I agree. This is a time where it's worth fucking putting your name on.
This is
like,
one of
the
those
fucking album
oddball
because-
ones because you
because
don't hear
like-
this a lot.
You don't hear this a lot,
Because, like,
but
Because
if you
listen to it. It sounds like a fucking 80s album, but
That's
it was
right.
recorded in
but it was
78.
recorded so much
It's like
earlier.
it was ahead of its time, but yet it put such a stamp on an era.
That's right.
Like it totally.
And that's where
Yeah.
where this thing gets so fucking ridiculously undersold for me because it's both.
It's
like
both.
on its surface, it's ridiculous.
I'll say I wasn't
Like,
even a
it's
fan
so
of this
good.
album until this week, but that's why I love this show.
I wasn't either.
is
And you know
because,
what? I wasn't
like,
a fan of your shirt until this week either. But Pulp Fiction, for those who are unaware, we got John Travolta and Samuel
Hot
L.
banger.
Jackson. Yeah.
Go 352.
I just like to
Yeah.
share just in case the involved parties happen to be watching. Shout out Claire and Ryan and Ann. So we spent New Year's Eve. We spent New Year's Eve in Bozeman and
Montana.
Montana. It was lovely. We went skiing and we wore our masks and everything because we were responsible.
While you were skiing?
Well, fuck yeah, you wear a
While they
fucking
were
mask
skiing.
anyway while
Hello.
you're fucking skiing.
Crazy motherfucker.
But
It's an
it was
extension of their
it
goggles.
was my second time meeting them because the first time I met them, it was unfortunate. It was their engagement party. Was the first time I met them, and it was in New York City, and my wisdom teeth had grown in and literally cracked my molar.
Wait,
and-
how fucking were you when your wisdom teeth came in?
I was like 27 or 28.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah, I was a moron. I should have.
Justin is now
Assholes.
47.
I'm now and now I'm 53 years old, and now I have a story to tell. But no, so they like my wisdom teeth grew in, and I was a fucking idiot, and they literally grew in and
Yeah.
split the molar in the bottom left part of my mouth. And so
Christ.
I was in New York with Anne, who the love of my life, who I live with now in New York.
Who?
Her name's Anne.
I'm just kidding, Ann. Ann, I love you. If
And
you listen
JB
to
is
this.
a piece of shit. We'll never
No,
invite him
Ann, don't
over.
listen to what Justin's saying. I love you, and I'll see you soon.
Okay.
Anyways, go on, Justin.
Yeah, well, you fucking better. Otherwise, we're gonna start to fucking write letters.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
But anyways, we should move on. You done? You got more to say?
I really had a lot more, but I think we should move on.
Let's
because
move
it's
on.
pretty much personal to you and your fucking lackadaisical friendship qualities.
All right, guys. I apologize for Justin's incoherent ramblings. Coming in at 352 is Eminem, the Slim Shady LP, on which Eminem introduced himself as the crazy white geek, the class clown freshman / dress like Les Nessman. Hip hop has never heard anything like M's brain
That was a
damaged
terrible
rhymes.
read, dude.
Some people. Hip hop has never heard anything like M's brain damaged rhymes on this Dre produced album, which earned M respect, fortune, fame, and a lawsuit from his mom. Yet, while he claimed that God sent him here to piss off the world, his most enduring quality was that he saved his most unsparing rhymes for the worst villain in his messed up life. Not mom or his ex-wife. Himself.
Yeah, emphasis on, like, I love in the art, like the Rolling Stone thing, like emphasis on himself being his worst fucking enemy.
I'm gonna take this time to so we went out to a really nice dinner tonight and we got some cheesecake and we're gonna fucking eat it right now. So I'm gonna open this
delicious.
up. I'm gonna open it up right now and me and
Please do.
Justin and Mike are gonna split it.
Okay. What too high, too low? And I know that I know that I'm
Right off the
jumping
bat, huh?
Yeah, I know that I'm jumping into the end, but we're all super fucking familiar with this record.
Yeah, that you're right. You're right. So for me, I think this is actually really unique to me because like usually I hear an album and I'm thinking in my head, I'm ranking it in my mind pretty low. Like because I haven't heard it before or I haven't experienced it in the context of the other great albums that there are to experience in this list. And I think this time around, I'm not the angry teen like in 7th grade that I was when I heard this album. And so when I listened to it again at 29 and I'm like, I remember back in the day when I liked this, but like also like I'm 29 and I'm happy, which I'm super fucking grateful for. Like I have great personal relationships with friends and family and my significant other and I'm super fucking grateful for that stuff. Yeah, it's Anne. It's Anne. I should say it's Anne. Her name Suzanne. But I listen to it now and I'm just like, yeah, fuck. I guess.
So you're saying you can't identify with the themes on this album?
Yeah, I
in your
don't.
current
I don't want
situation,
to. I don't
your
want to
station.
murder my ex-wife because I don't have one. I guess, and so I just don't identify as.
Honestly, this record for me at this point in time is serving what I think to be is his purpose, which is pure entertainment. There's no. He's not fucking murdering his wife. It's just pure entertainment, and he's even said the same thing. Like, regardless, maybe he did have custody battles with his wife at the time, but he didn't want. He wasn't gonna murder. He wasn't gonna fucking murder her. It's entertainment. That's all it is. It's to be funny. It's to be fun. And he's trying to fucking push people's buttons. And for me, that's what this record does. This pushes buttons in the most fucking unimaginable way. Like the shit that he says. Nobody has the balls to say the shit that he says on this album, dude. So, like, I'm blown away. Listen to this. I'm like, I don't know anybody that would fucking say what he's saying right now. Like, seriously, even rappers, like, you hear rappers say fucked up things, not like he does, dude. Like, this is a whole other thing. He talks about some shit that is just so risque. You're like I had to like pause and rewind. I'm like, did he really just say that? And he really did. You know what I mean?
So I get, people appreciate songs, especially now. I think like there's a premium on like he's just saying what we're all thinking, or like he's just saying what everyone else is afraid to say. But you know what? Like, there's a reason you should be afraid to say some shit. Like.
So you think that there's things that he said they shouldn't have said?
I do. I think there's some things he said that he shouldn't have said. And he was able to get away with it at the time because I don't know, I think politics of color, like, were not as sensitive at the time. Like, he's a white guy produced by Dr. Dre, like talking some shit about like, being a white and like confronting African Americans. Like, I think he got away with some shit.
Honestly, that's what I love the most, dude. I love that he got like the things that the times that there are times listening to this and like even on subsequent listens, I'm taken aback at times. I'm like, holy shit, he just fucking said that, whatever it is. And it's like, honestly, it's like stuff that most of the time this is not the case, but there's things that like he said that I don't even want to fucking say. You know what I mean? Like, there are things that he said that I don't even want to say it on here because it's that risque and that inappropriate.
Yeah.
But like, I love it personally that he said that because I think it's hilarious, and I think that's his thing. Like, he's gonna say those things that like nobody is gonna be comfortable saying. And I don't think there's no time where I was like offended. There's no time throughout this where I was like, wow, he really went too far there. I just think he said something that nobody else would say, but at the same time, I was okay with it. You know what I mean?
So I think like, you and I we went to the same high school, and we're both very lucky to have had the high school level education that we had. But I think we both probably listened to this album at about the same time, like when we were like 14 or 15. And what I take issue with is like, so like if I had kids and they were like 13 or 14, I would be like, I would really hope they didn't listen.
You're not going to let them listen to this at all, dude. You're not going to let them listen to it at all.
And the reason to be like, I think that it's important to understand different cultures, and like, so I'd want them to listen to hip hop and R&B.
This is different though. This is just purely.
It's very different. This is fucking hateful music.
Well, it's not. I don't want to say hateful, dude.
It's fucking hateful.
I want to say
this is hateful.
What's the word I'm looking for? It's provoking a response. What's the word I'm looking for?
Provocative.
Provocative. That's exactly the word. So like the word is provocative. That's exactly what I was looking for. So he's attempting to be provocative here, whether that is, whatever emotion he's trying to provoke.
Well,
but he's being intentionally provocative here.
I don't think we should shield children from like, feeling the feelings that really should be felt. About serious social issues, about serious familial issues.
This is more than that, though. This is just like he's.
I agree. Like,
the thing is, though, he's pointing out some real feelings throughout this.
Some real fucking feelings. But the thing is, do you seriously, as a parent, and not that this list was not created by parents, so like let's get that out of the way. This was not this isn't Rolling Stone's parents approved fucking list of $500. like but if you were a parent, like, and you know, and I had parents, I still have parents. I'm very lucky to still have parents. But when I was listening to Marshall Mathers, you know, before I turned 18, like, you know, either if it wasn't on the radio, I wasn't really listening to it. So it, you know, it becomes, are you only listening to what is censored and then thereby approved by your parents? And that becomes like a weird statement on your worldview. And, or are we saying that like, hey, let's just all subscribe to like a non-violent, I don't know, like worldview where we don't talk about like murdering our fiance.
Well, hold on. I think so. Lee Stamper had a comment just now that kind of ties into what you're saying. He said it's not remotely hateful, which I don't know if I agree with that, Lee. That's a bit of a stretch. But then he said,
I refuse to believe it's not hateful. It's super fucking hateful.
But then he said this was a great.
Why do people die?
This was a great outlet for kids. I listened to this when I was young, and it was a risk-free way to blow off steam. That's all.
Super not risk-free. Super
not
not
risk-free. I believe that.
I don't know that I agree with that either, because I think that like this is some seriously provocative shit.
And it's violent. Like,
when you listen to this, when you're fucking 10 years old, you might listen to this and you might take some of it to heart. That's the thing. Like listening to it now, I can listen to it as I'm 29 years old, and I can listen to this and I can be like, I can laugh out loud as I'm like out walking my dog and living my life. Yeah, you know, like my normal life.
He jokes about
where I live a good life,
his wife
and I can laugh at that shit because I can think he doesn't mean it because I'm fucking out living my normal life, walking my dog. But like some kid that is in a weird situation, he might listen to that. And he might be like, he might take it differently than I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what to me is not okay about it. Like I liked this album more when I was younger. Like when I listened to it now, I was like, I don't like it. And because
really, because I still loved it. I gotta be honest. And so also I got the caveat. I got the caveat that the one that I listened to was Marshall Mathers LP. I listened to that a lot when I was a kid. Didn't listen to this almost at all. This is like not that it's the first listen, but I was way more into the Marshall Mathers LP.
I agree. I'm way more into the Marshall Mathers LP, but like, just listening to this and thinking of like my timeline as a kid, I do think I was biased. And so I do think that I'm a little tainted in my approach to this, but like, I think of like the age I was at, and you know, this is like a weird memory, but like when I was hearing these songs for the first time, it was like my dad was in a softball league as part of like a church softball league. It was like, so, which is pretty funny, like in the first place. And like, you know,
we playing center field.
Yeah, and we would go buy like fucking lollipops for $0.25, and they would just have like Kiss FM on the radio 107.5, and you'd hear like, you know, these Eminem songs, and they would be super fucking filthy, and you know, all the kids would like be totally down with it and playing in the playground, and then all of our parents would like come and get us. Like,
but that's, you know, there's a line on the Marshall Mathers LP. That's like something about like, I can't remember what song it was. It's like one of the first few songs on the record. And it's talking about
I grow up to be just like me.
That's what it is. I think that's what it is. And one of the lines is like, where were the parents at? Like maybe you fucking parents shouldn't be letting your kids listen to Eminem. You know, maybe it's not for those fucking 12-year-old kids. You know what I mean?
I totally agree with that. And I think that that's why he was able to make that point. Like,
it's also got to be like, it's dependent on the kid. There are some 12-year-old kids that can listen to Eminem and think it's hilarious.
But like also,
and there are some 12-year-old kids that can't because they're going to take it to heart.
Don't, you know? Like for Eminem, like if he was trying to make a point about like, well, you shouldn't have been shielding your kids from my shit, like, or like, fuck you. Okay. Like, so you're just going to like make a point, like, you know, like Monday morning quarterback the shit. Like, just like, well, I was being artistic and it was, you know, freedom of speech and you shielded your kids from it.
No, 100%, dude. Like, absolutely.
Like, hang on.
Absolutely.
Hang on. I'm not saying that's what he did. I'm just saying, like, you know, like if you want to push the envelope, like, then you better be fucking ready.
Hang on. Comment from Lee. Justin going full PTA mom.
Hang on, dude. Hang on. I don't know, Leah. I don't know if you know my mom, but she fucking prepared me for this shit.
Hang on.
So buckle up, motherfucker.
Let me ask you this. On balance, right?
Or off.
I'm not talking about like whether you're a parent, whether you're not a parent.
Well,
like-
Mike, you're a fucking parent. We should ask you.
And I'll be happy to espouse my opinion about this. But what my question to both of you is, right? Knowing that neither one of you are parents, on balance, this is a song. This is a collection of songs. It's 20 of them with a handful of skits mixed in. Is this one of the greatest 500 albums ever recorded?
No.
Does it even fit into 500 for you?
No.
Okay. JB? Listen, I respect the fuck out of that opinion. JB?
I will say, well, JB.
No. Hang on.
I won't say anything. What I meant to
just
say is
hang
I
on.
won't say anything. Well,
Hang on.
JB thinks.
Hang on. JB, go. One of the 500 greatest albums of all time.
I think without a doubt, without a single doubt in my fucking mind, Eminem.
No, stop.
Belong-
Stop.
No,
Stop.
no,
Stop.
no,
Stop.
hold
Stop.
on.
No. This.
Why don't you let me
fucking
speak?
This fucking.
Why don't you guys let me talk?
This
Shut-
fucking album.
Stop talking.
This
Just enough.
fucking album.
Yeah.
Okay, you
We're
know,
going to the
you're
same
like
place.
you're putting air out of your mouth. Stop that.
Go ahead.
Without a doubt, Eminem belongs on this list. 100%. No doubt in my mind. I think maybe one album is enough, but so I think his second record, which is his second full length, which is Marshall Mathers LP, belongs on this top 500. With this one, I'm kind of up in the air. I think that I think it's great. Honestly, I like it a lot. I think it's amazing. I think that it really brought the fact that like when this came out, people were like fucking up in arms all over the place. Canada was like, the Prime Minister of Canada was like, we're not going to let Eminem into the fucking country.
He's a
Literally,
fucking
that was the real thing.
terrorist. Yeah.
And nowadays, not the same situation at all.
I mean,
Eminem is
there's
like
a
respected. Eminem is
bridge
on the
from
fucking
Detroit.
best albums of all time list. So like this album, this guy is one of the best. I mean,
Okay.
hold on a second, but like, I think that Marshall Mathers LP belongs on here, no doubt, which I think it's on here for sure. I think this one, I could be argued for this not to be on here, but I have no problem with it being on here.
Okay.
You go
So,
on.
Yeah.
all of that being said, I'm not trying to kick you out of the conversation, Justin, but
It's
you're
not-
fucking
I-
gone,
I
right?
completely
Because you already said that you're like, I'm fucking out on this. We're not talking about the Marshall Mathers LP. We're talking about Some Shady, right? Like this particular album. And
Which
Rolling-
again, well, we're talking about the same artist though.
Where are we?
yeah, I mean, yes, of course it's the same
So
artist.
it's natural for it to come up, right?
I'm fine with that. I'm
Yeah.
not arguing like where you fit placement of other albums, but we're talking about a specific recording.
And I
right?
think
So with this one, right, knowing what you know about it, it's got My Name Is, it's got Guilty Conscience, it's got
I still don't give a fuck.
absolutely the most controversial fucking record maybe of his entire career,
Which is what?
97 Bonnie and Clyde.
Okay, so between that and Kim,
So-
his fucking wife is dead in the trunk. Like,
Dude, that fucking, like, I mean, seriously, right? Like that song,
okay, so
I don't know what y'all did on that song. Dude, I gave that song 3 stars because I've never been there with my wife,
I don't think most people have.
but this is like some Richard Pryor shit,
fucking
right?
hope so, dude.
This is some serious Richard Pryor shit.
If you
right?
want to literally murder your wife, and like, okay, so there's a difference between like, hey, I'm a little bit annoyed with my wife today, and saying, hey, I
I'm
want to
gonna
fucking murder my wife and put her in the back of
This
my
is some-
trunk.
This is some serious Richard
with
Pryor
my
shit.
daughter in the car. You know,
Some serious Richard Pryor shit.
So the thing that he does
I'm
on
not
this,
like, I don't hate my wife, but I totally get where this song is coming from.
holy shit!
I'm sure she's so fucking glad to.
No,
hear
no, no,
this.
no,
Like,
no,
oh
no,
my
no.
She's not listening
and
to this podcast.
that's not a
Hopefully never.
She doesn't listen.
no, but that's not even a personal
Sorry,
reflection. That's not even a
So
personal
fucking
reflection of my
sorry.
wife. That's this whole bit. That's like a whole Richard Pryor bit, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I'm not saying that I would murder my wife,
But she would kill you.
but I get the feeling of what he's saying. So with that being said, I mean, we're talking about a specific album. We're not talking about Eminem as an artist.
We're not, but so what I was saying was I think that Marshall Mathers LP definitely belongs on here. I think this one I could see it on here. I don't feel super strongly about it, but I could see it.
The Marshall Mathers LP to me is definitely on this list.
Well, obviously it's on the list.
Obviously, if this is on the list, the Marshall Mathers LP is on the fucking list.
Probably the Eminem show too.
But I'd love for someone to explain to me why this album is on the list. So the Marshall
because
Mathers,
it introduced. Okay,
why? Why?
I will present the corollary. I'm actually supportive of this album being on the list. I don't like the content of it.
You don't like the content of it?
I grew up on this album.
Not really.
I think it's hilarious,
but I don't think it belongs here. I really.
Here's the
I
thing.
don't think it's that great.
I get the lyrics in 97 Bonnie and Clyde, but that's not anything that I would ever support. Right? I'm never gonna fucking murder my wife.
Okay, so this is Eminem.
I'm never gonna murder my wife and ditch her body in the fucking trunk and then ditch her in the lake.
The taxes would be a nightmare.
That's not me.
Okay, so this is the guy who is going through something that a lot of other guys have gone through.
Yeah.
So what Eminem's wanting to murder their wife? Or what?
Dude.
So what? Hold on.
Listen, baby mamas can be bitches.
So what Eminem's going through at this time,
baby mamas can be bitches.
All right.
Just to be clear,
I just want to be clear.
Hold on.
I don't have a baby mama. I just have a significant other.
All right, stop.
And I
got a baby mama.
And I just want to be clear.
So what Eminem's going through at this time is that Kim, which is his baby mama, has limited his interaction with his own daughter. He can't see her at all. She's cut it off.
Yes, yeah,
and so he's going through frustration, and
so
he has chosen
probably kill her and put her in the trunk of his car.
He doesn't though. He writes a song about it instead. And some guys actually did that. That's the thing. You know?
Hang on. How about My Name Is?
Yeah.
The fucking song rips, dude.
That's true. No,
that song straight rips. And there's nothing wrong with that song.
It's a badass tune, but I don't think we should shy away from what we're talking about. Which
he just says, he says crazy shit in that song.
I'll say what, is he a fucking gangster or is he not? Is he?
No, fuck no, he's not.
I don't know. He wasn't. I don't know. He kind of is.
Mr. Dre, Mr. NWA, Mr. AK.
Yes.
Come on, dude. Guilty
Dr.
conscience.
Dre,
he goes through it all.
He kind of is a gangster. He's a different kind of gangster.
Record,
He's a gangster from a different time. He's a guy that was bullied in high school in a really, really, really shitty part of town.
Way, dude.
And in a really bad way. And you know what? That's how he grew up. He grew up in a situation where he was helpless. This fucking people, these guys in his school were gonna beat the shit out of him, and no one was gonna stand up for him at all.
No.
And that's how he grew up. That's who he was. I can't imagine that. Can you imagine growing up in a school where this fucking kid could beat the shit out of you, could slam your face into the urinal and break your fucking nose, and the teacher would do nothing about it? Because that's the situation that Eminem grew up in, literally. And that's
you're right.
That's it. And his mom, he'd go home, and his mom was fucking doing drugs and was not a reliable source of support whatsoever. Eminem, he's a gangster in a different way to me. He grew up in a really, really tough spot, and he's respectable. He's not a gangster in the way that he's not a member of MWA. He didn't grow up in Compton.
Mr. NWA, Mr. AK.
But Dr. Dre supports him and respects him enough to allow him to say that sort of thing.
Let me ask you this.
They use his beats, yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this. Higher, lower, perfect. And I'm not talking about Eminem. I'm talking about the Slim Shady LP.
I get it, yeah.
And number 352 of the greatest 500 albums of
So
all
again,
time.
my argument was that I definitely see Marshall Mathers LP being on this list, but I think it belongs much, much higher.
Okay.
And I think that I'm cool with this being on here. And for me, I like it where it is.
Justin.
So This was tough for me because like when I was a younger man, meaning like in high school, like I loved Marshall Mathers, loved everything he did. It was my shit. That was my shit. And now it's like I'm not as angry, and so I hear it now and I'm just like, yeah, man, that's rough, but like, there's a fucking light at the end of the tunnel and it's nice, and like, you can get past it, and it's just a pleasant life. You can just get past
I mean, you have to get through Oxys first, but eventually you'll get through all that, and it's a wonderful place.
Yeah, and so but I don't want to hold Eminem to that, that kind of standard. Detroit's a fucking rocky place, and so, but okay, like when I'm listening to it, so I'm super biased because I got to say, like, I equate my life to it, and I feel like I had a major like uphill climb that was very positive for me between when I fell in love with Eminem and this album, and then thereafter the Marshall Mathers LP. And so for me, like I listen to this album and I almost like look back on it with disdain. Because I'm like, you know what? I'm in a way better place. And like I listened to these songs and like they pissed me off and I was mad. And like I loved them and they were my anthem. And then I was mad. And now I hear them and I'm just like, yeah, I used to be a mad teen or like, a mad like post-teen kid. And like now I'm just like, yeah, I'm cool. Like I'm all right. I don't give a shit.
Okay. So to me, it's about the creativity of the flow.
Yeah.
Which I think is just unprecedented.
Like I was a fucking genius. Like nobody was flowing the way that he did in a way that was intentionally. I mean, he knew exactly what he was doing in terms of pissing people off.
Yeah.
He was intentionally saying stuff.
Sure, but
to fucking rile people up.
I will say the issue.
That's all it is. It's just to piss people off.
So I mean, I literally just finished my piece about being all like fucking patsy, like fucking yeah, it's all nice and soft and whatever. But I will say the one issue I have with it is like, it is really fucking soft. Like he addresses some serious issues.
Yeah.
From the perspective of a white man, like in the genre that is pretty much, I would say, if we're talking about being from the perspective of someone that's ostracized, so like from the genre that's exclusively experienced by like people of African American descent.
Justin Lee says Justin wasn't married to Kim, and it shows. And he also said it's one of the best lyrical and rhyme schemes ever put on tape. He said, you guys are acting like he's being serious. You've missed the whole concept of the record, which is that he's not serious at all. No, which I get that. He isn't saying he's a gangster. Kids need someone to tell them he's okay to be angry. And the reason I'm reading this because I think it's really valid points. Otherwise, I would just to be clearly, if I would just ignore you if I think you were saying stupid shit. But I think that you're saying like really valid things.
I do too.
And so I also wanted to make a couple points about the record. One line for me, which for me sums up the entire fucking record, is from the song If I Had, and it's, if I had one wish, I would ask for a big enough ass for the whole world to kiss. I think that line right there sums up the entire record. Like if you can read that line, you can understand Eminem's attitude throughout the entire fucking album. And then the other thing is the song I'm Shady. You guys know what that was?
What?
That's Pusher Man by Curtis Mayfield.
Oh.
That's literally what that is. I got mushrooms, I got acid, I got an acid tablets.
That's what you get when you have Dr. Dre producing. Like you get just pure.
It's like literally the exact. It's a sample of
I loved the skits on this record.
Yeah. The skits,
the skits are just fucking so classic, dude. And they're so classic that they actually continue on into like later LPs that Eminem created. So like the character of Ken Kniff continued on through later records as well as Paul, right? Like Paul the Attorney and Ken Kniff, like the foil. They just continue on through all of his records. Listen, I mean, for me, and I think everybody else espoused their opinion. For me, I actually like the position of it. I don't think that I would move it up significantly, but I also wouldn't move it down significantly because I do think that Eminem is, I mean, listen, he's He's lyrically, man, he's so fucking smart. And his flow is so unbelievably smooth relative to other hip hop artists at the time. And so I'm happy to see him celebrated. I'm looking forward to exploring the Marshall Mathers LP, which I do expect to be on this list.
Top
Probably
200, right?
Has to be.
I mean, yeah, like I could see it between 200 and 250. I could see it between 150 and 200. You know, somewhere between.
It's
there,
high. Whatever it is, it's high.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to me, the intention behind that album merits its placement, whereas this one, like, I don't see the intention.
Oh, I see it.
It's
It's fucking dark though.
it is dark. I just see like an angry white dude like trying to make his mark on hip hop, and like, does that deserve to be the top 500? I don't think so. I really don't.
Let's talk about something that absolutely deserves to be nowhere on this fucking list. And that is number 351 from 1973, Roxy Music's album "For Your Pleasure." As
Shots fired.
As Rolling Stone proclaims, fucking horrifically, keyboardist Brian Eno. And for the record, listen, Brian Eno can be a fucking genius, but just because his name is attached to something, that doesn't mean that it's worth 8 fucking scraps of dog shit on anything. Okay, so
Rolling
Brian
Stone
Eno's
disagrees.
last album with Roxy Music is the pop equivalent of Ultra Suede. Highly stylish, abstract-leaning art rock. The collision of Eno's and singer Brian Ferry's clashing visions gives Pleasure a wild, tense charm, especially on the driving editions of You and Do the Strand. The album's deeply weird centerpiece is In Every Dream Home a Heartache. Ferry sings seductive ballad to an inflatable doll. I blew up your body, but you blew my mind. One of the creepiest love songs of all time.
Don't disagree with that.
Yeah, sure. That's great. Fuck you. Like, I don't even give a fuck about this album. And the craziest part about this is we already heard this record, only it was way better when we heard it as Sparks.
Yeah.
And that was way back at 460 something is when we heard Sparks.
I would say I fucking
later.
love this.
No, you didn't.
You're right. You're right.
kidding
I'm
me?
lying to you. I would say, like, I think
He liked it.
I just want to say you're probably about to hear a lot of negative stuff about this album, but I would say in the middle of this album, and I wish I had a track listing in front of me so I could say so, but the middle of this album gets really like prog rock and exploratory. And
Art rock, right?
Art rock, yeah. And I think it deserves a listen. I think the middle of this album, like tracks 3 through 6, deserve a listen. And honestly, In Every Dream Home a Heartache, that's a fucking highlight.
I don't think that's what you're talking about.
That's exactly what the fuck
I don't think so.
That's exactly what the fuck I'm
I
talking about.
I literally don't
And
think so,
it's
Justin.
Exactly 110 fucking percent.
I think you're talking about the bogus man.
No, I'm talking about In Every Dream Home a Heartache.
So the reason, guys, just so
I fucking texted you about this.
he did, and that's why I'm saying that, Justin. So for the listeners, Justin texted me earlier this week. He was like, "In Every Dream Home a Heartache got super psychedelic," and I was listening today, and I was like, "No, it doesn't." But you know what does? The song right after that. So I think that maybe you were talking about the song right after that, Justin, which is called.
No, I wasn't.
I think you should listen back because I think that's what it is.
I was not thinking back. I literally was not.
Again, we're gonna mute his mic. I apologize, guys. But anyways, so Mike didn't like this because the whole thing is a little pretentious.
It is,
and
it's
he's not wrong at all. It especially right away. So the very first song sounds very much like a version of the band Sparks that me and Mike loved. Me and Mike love Sparks.
Yep.
But not as good and more pretentious.
Yep.
Definitely. That's what it is. No doubt about that. But for me, it got better from there at times. And then it got worse at times. you know? So there were a couple songs that I really liked. I really liked the song Strictly Confidential, which was the third song. Liked that a lot. Have you guys seen the movie Forgetting Sarah Marshall?
Yep.
Do you guys remember that Jason Segel's character is writing a musical for Dracula?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I thought that song was like. I was like, that song reminds me of a fucking Dracula musical song, and I actually kind of like it, you know. And so for that, I liked it. But and then the next song, didn't really love. And Ever Dream Home a Heartache was the fifth track. It's interesting. It's an ode to a blow up doll. It's funny. It's pretty good.
I can't
Didn't
help
love
it.
it.
That's the best song on the record. That seriously.
Seriously, I'm confused, Justin, because I think maybe you were talking about the next song. I think you need to listen back because you said you said psychedelic. The Bogus Man is like first of all, it's like 11 minutes long. It has this long, drawn out psychedelic rock section. So when I was listening, I was like, you know what? It doesn't make any sense that Justin said that about track 5. If he had said that about track 6, that would line up. So I think maybe there's a chance that you were just incorrect about your placement.
How about this? You know what? Maybe a lot of critics think that this record is fucking great. If you're talking about the greatest 500 albums of all time, which is what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
There should be some level of universality that you can apply, you know, to the record as a whole, or
That's not
to
going
at
on
least
here.
a handful of songs that appear on the record. And that to me is what's missing here. You know, I don't think that this record as a whole is a record that you could look at and say, yeah, everybody's going to connect with this record. Because frankly, I don't think many people at all would connect with this record. But then when you drill it down into individual songs and say, you know what, there's like 2 or 3 just amazing songs on this record that everybody can connect to. No.
Yeah.
I don't see that either. And so in the absence of being able to connect with individual songs, much less the entire album, the fuck are we talking about?
Yeah.
It's like an art rock album. To me,
it comes across super pretentious to me.
It almost felt like it's like they want to make you feel like you're supposed to like it. Like
That's exactly right. That's the definition of pretentious, right?
Yeah, it's like you, if
Right?
you're cool, you should like this.
That's what I'm saying. That's the definition of pretentious, right?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like the definition of pretentious is that you should like this even if you don't. You know what I mean? Like,
I
right?
found myself like, I love.
Isn't that what it is?
I love Brian Eno.
And
I love Brian Eno, but
who doesn't love Brian Eno? You know, but like what Mike said, Mike really made a point that really stuck out to me, which is that just because it says Brian Eno in the name doesn't mean it's good.
And that's,
you know what I mean?
That's where I'm at, dude. Because
that could be why these guys landed this place, is because like, hey, Brian Eno produces records, so check us out.
I don't think so. I think it's because
he was
this
on
guy,
this record.
He
was
the synth player on this record.
Honestly,
and let's be clear,
he's a great fucking.
Let's be clear though, this is
He's
before he had his own name. This is before
Correct.
that.
I mean, yeah, but like, I mean, he was still.
So you could make an argument that
he
this
was
is
still prolific before this time.
not really.
No.
Okay, can I just want to make this known. And so people that know me, and that is probably my brother Dalton, his girlfriend Maddie, and my girlfriend Ann. They know that there's a song called "I'll Come Running" by Brian Eno, and it is the greatest fucking song.
When did it come out?
Yeah, from what year?
Hold on.
Because I bet it was after this.
Oh, but it was too.
That album is already on the list. I'll come running to tie your shoe. Best fucking song
What year
I
was
believe
it
you.
from?
all time.
I believe you.
What year?
Let me see. Hold on. It's almost impossible to say. Untappedlyrics.com. Fuck, I don't know. It's on Another Green World, which
is from what year?
was already on this list.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was. I guarantee.
Not
it
at
was.
this point.
Yes, it was.
False.
Let me do just a little quick Control F on.
You can do that if you want, but it wasn't on the list up to here. I'm telling you that.
I'm sorry. Another Green World is yet to come. But
What did I tell you?
1975.
But
So it's after this.
Brian
which was after
Eno.
this.
So I think that there's the point, I suppose, is Brian Eno is an incredibly gifted songwriter
No doubt.
and producer.
Which is wonderful.
And his work is yet to be observed on this list.
False.
Not
Because he was
true.
on another record. What was it before this? Was it Talking
But
Heads?
I would
Yeah.
say his work is yet to be observed in his name only. So
In
like-
his name only,
so like
certainly.
you'll see
Yeah.
the Talking Heads, and you'll see Roxy Music.
His
but
work as a producer.
But you won't see Brian
you
Eno.
won't see Brian Eno.
And I don't
But-
think you
but
will the
thing
whole
is-
time.
No. The thing is, after this, you will see Brian.
So you'll see a Brian Eno
You will
record.
see Brian Eno as an artist.
I
Then
hope
help me
we
out.
will. I
Then-
hope we will.
Then help me to understand why this record is on the list.
Honestly, I agree with you. I think I agree with the angle that you're coming with, which is like, okay, if that's true, why is Brian Eno on the list? Like okay,
I don't think this record
we
is
agree
on the
Brian
list.
Eno is a great producer, but why is this an album that he gets on the list?
I don't
That's
think
right.
this record's on the list to represent Brian Eno. I think it's on the list to represent Brian Ferry, which is the lead singer of this band, who
That's
is
interesting.
a contemporary of David Bowie, is what I think it is. Some of this stuff is very similar to a lot of David Bowie stuff, albeit maybe not as good, but a lot of this stuff is very similar to definitely a contemporary of David Bowie. And he's the lead singer. He's a songwriter. He's who's being representative. The fact that Brian Eno is on this is a side product, but I think it's interesting. I think it's a cool thing. Either way, the fact that this was his last album that he did before he spun off into his solo career.
The idea that this is the 351st greatest album of all time to me is fucking laughable.
I do agree with that.
And I don't disagree
Like,
with that at all. And
Utterly
I'm right there with you.
fucking laughable.
I think,
Although
you've
I'm
got
glad
some
I
big
listened to
names
this.
on it, but it doesn't deserve the placement.
I'm glad I listened to this, but yeah, I think this is maybe if you're gonna put it on the list, this is a bottom 50 for me.
Listen, if you wanted to put it at 475 plus, meaning like 480, 45.
like ahead of like what
We got to think what you're
the
saying by that, Mike.
Indestructible Beats of Soweto.
So what you're
like-
saying by that, Mike, is you're saying, you know what, it belongs above 475, but it's still one of the best 500 albums of all time. Is that what you're saying?
Actually, no.
You're saying it doesn't belong on the list at all.
because eventually you're saying there's
I'm not
100
even-
albums that are in the bottom
I'm not
25.
I'm not even on this list for this record. And the sad thing is like, I feel like based on everything that I read that this record is on this list because it's so representative of great art pop. And maybe my opinion is just that art pop is dog shit. And maybe art pop doesn't deserve to be representative of all, considering that
Because maybe
we
our pop is
encountered-
a little pretentious.
maybe because we
could
encountered
be.
our very first metal album this week of Black Sabbath. I know that we're going to get Paranoid. I know that we're going to get a couple of Metallica records, but out of 500, that tells me that we're going to get at most 4 metal records, and I have to deal with this shit, which is
So
crazy.
what was your favorite song?
In Every Dream, Home, a Heartache.
That's the Blow Up
I
Doll
love
song.
that song.
Correct.
My favorite song was the one after that. The Bogus Man. Which honestly, Justin, I think is what you're talking about. You keep saying that, you know what? You're steadfast in your opinion that In Every Dream Home a Heartache is your psychedelic song, which isn't. It's not. Like
Yeah,
I think what you're talking about is.
seriously, I strongly feel that like
I think maybe you just literally were looking at the wrong name. I think that what you thought was in that song was the track 6, because The Bogus Man is a super long track. It's like 12 minutes long and it's super psychedelic. I think there's a chance that you were just looking at the wrong name. I seriously think that.
I
So
mean,
the Brian Eno,
there's a chance that that's true.
Brian
I
Eno,
won't
what he
deny
said was Brian Eno thought the Bogus Man, which is the 6th track, sounded like Can.
Yeah.
Which I agree with. It did sound
Most
like
of
Can.
this record sounds like Can to me.
Specifically that song though. It's like that kind of funk psychedelic vibe, you know?
For me, the best record on this song, and I know that I just told you in every dream home a heartache, but actually For Your Pleasure, the very last track, was the jam to me.
It's a weird one. There's a lot of stops in that. That sounded. There were a couple songs on this record that sounded like that Dracula musical thing, and that was one of them.
Yeah,
I would agree. I think that like when you listen to Black Sabbath and then you listen to this album, like there's a lot of places where you could like. I think it's usually on the minor 7, right? Like, am I right on that, JB? Like where they just hang on the 7. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm probably super fucking wrong.
Where you going? Continue on that.
I'm just saying, like when you play along with like the vocal melody, which is what I like to do, like ba da da, and like so in the
It
metal.
sounded like you were singing the Black Sabbath.
Yeah, on Black Sabbath, it's a lot of triads, but if you play enough triads in a row, you're gonna end up with a 7. Or am I totally fucking wrong on that?
I don't want to say you're wrong.
you could be drunk.
I know
though.
you don't want to. But like,
I think that with that song, that's not what that is. But maybe with some of the other songs.
all right. Well,
I'm not going to disagree with you. I think that you're not wrong at all. I'm not trying to say you're wrong. No, I'm not saying you're wrong at all. No.
Okay,
well, one way
let's
or
read
another.
Rex.
Let's read Rex.
Rex says, I don't even know what I'm listening to anymore. This album sounds like 1982, not 1972. It's a fun listen. The instrument section is all over the place. Every dream home, a heartache sounds like it should be playing at a funeral.
That's true. That's true.
I don't know what I'm listening to when it comes to Bogus Man. Very much Tom Waits-esque. A bad Tom Waits impression, though. It's an okay album, not my cup of tea. He also said, the Slim Shady LP, he said, aside from the hits, there are a few overlooked tracks on this album. If I Had and 97 Bonnie and Clyde. The sound is dark and soaked in twisted humor. I dig it. You can hear how young he sounds through all the album. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I appreciate hearing his songs now versus then. It's a tad too low on the list for me, closer to 350 or 360. It's a good album. Fascinating. Marshall Mathers, not to sidetrack us back down to Eminem.
What's fascinating to me is that
it's so polarizing.
Yeah.
Is that he says that it should be 350 to 360.
And that's where it's at.
And it's at 352.
That's where
Well,
it's
the thing
at.
is, like,
So-
so he's not being serious, but like, where do you draw the line? Because like, I think
I agree.
like
It's tough too. Eminem is really tough.
I think many people that either listen to this podcast or may in the future listen to this podcast, like, we know people
Will in the future.
Yeah. We do, or we know people eventually that will have struggles with certain, I don't know, substances, or
I know a lot of those people.
psychosomatic issues.
Some people. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, I feel like it's almost irresponsible to comment on them, right?
Possibly.
I don't
know what our time is on this. I think we have to be pushing 3 hours on this fucking podcast.
2.5 right now, so we should wrap it up.
Yeah, it's
let's
super
get
long.
into previewing next week.
I do want to speak my
Roxy
piece.
Music.
Yeah, Roxy Music can suck my Roxy dick. I'm totally fucking out on it. I mean, listen, if you wanted to put it at 490, like Harry Styles, I'd say, yeah, okay, that's fun. I mean, where do you want to put it? Are you cool with it at 350? Like, do you dig it? Are you down?
I drop at 50. I want it above Harry Styles.
That's super fair. And I'm actually totally down with that. I respect that opinion.
I
Justin?
agree that there's a couple of things that should be above, but at the same time, like, there's nothing I could like defend this against.
Okay, that's
Like,
wonderful.
Does it belong? No.
Let's
Okay.
preview 350.
Next week, the next 5. And actually, we got one more thing that we have to do before we close out this podcast. Let's go through the next 5, and then we'll talk about our favorite
Yes.
from the last 25.
But let's do the next 5 first.
Okay, so number 350 next week from 1972, Music of My Mind by Stevie Wonder, the first Stevie Wonder album on this list.
First Stevie Wonder, first of several songs in the key of life. Probably going to be top 100, right?
I would think Intervision.
Top 50, maybe.
Maybe.
Honestly, I think songs in the key of life be top 50. 349 is MC5, Kick Out the Jams.
And by the way, listen to that one this morning. Fuck.
Dope.
Like if you have not done that yet,
I have not.
whew, that's a fucking smoke show. 348, Jillian Welsh, Time, The Revelator from 2001.
Dude, if you don't have it, I'll fucking send it to you. That's a fucking banger.
Jillian Welsh?
Yeah, it's not a fucking banger, but let me say, I think that country is an underrepresented
Genre.
Oh, okay.
Jillian Welch she's so fucking good.
She's a folksy motherfucker.
She's a folksy motherfucker, and she's old time. Like she's old.
I'm intrigued.
Time, right? Like she brings that old school feel to it. Like
Nice.
I'm intrigued.
A huge fan.
I'm down.
347.
I'm so happy she's on this list. And if you want the record, I'll send it to you.
Send it to me. 347, Jizza, Liquid Swords.
That fucking rips. Super excited about Liquid Swords. Okay, and then the last one for next week's 346 from 2013. That might be one of our highest entries of recent years. It's the Arctic Monkeys AM.
For recent years. Yeah.
I love that record too. Love the
So-
placement.
Yeah. So now we're going to go back and we're going to do the last 50. Is that right? Or last 25?
Last 25. Favorite single album out of last 25.
Okay.
Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
I'm reviewing here. So if you just give me a second, I can certainly answer that question in just a minute here. So I'm looking through and I'm just definitely feeling time right now. There's no doubt about it. I'm just fucking talking to fill space. There's nothing of substance that I'm saying
Happily wasting
whatsoever.
your time.
I'm guessing that Mike's favorite
feel
is
better.
probably Drake. If you're reading this, it's too late.
Drizzy.
Is that what it is, Mike?
I love Drizzy so much.
Yes, we know you do.
How does he feel? How does he fill the air? What does he
So my
It's a little bit
personal,
tough.
it is a little bit tough. And I'm going to tell you my favorite. Okay. So my favorite is George Harrison. All Things Must Pass. Is that yours as well?
No.
No.
Oh shit! What are you gonna do now?
My favorite is actually The Cars.
Holy shit! Is it
From this
really?
week, dude, listen, when you talk about just like track for track, the entire album, what am I going to listen to more and how much do I enjoy it? It's The Cars. As I said, when we talked about The Cars, to me, The Cars it's probably too low by 100. If that record appeared,
You don't think George Harrison is too low by 100?
I love George Harrison. And that's okay. So there's two honorable mentions for me. The two honorable mentions for me are All Things Must Pass by George Harrison, because that record really fucking blew me away. The other one,
Hold
for
on,
me,
let me guess.
Go ahead.
Is it? Okay, I got two guesses. All
Okay.
right.
No.
What the fuck?
Give me one guess. Give me your best
No,
guess.
I got two.
Okay.
It's probably a Hot Buttered Soul. Is that what it is?
Yes.
But my second guess and my second favorite was More Songs About Building Food by Talking Heads.
Oh, by Talking Heads.
Yeah.
Okay, so my my two backups.
Songs that like
The Cars to me, The Cars to me by far and away was like, if I think about pound for pound, just the record as a whole and what it meant for music and just like the impact of that record, to me, The Cars, because George Harrison, I absolutely loved All Things Must Pass, but so many of those tracks sounded like they could have been Beatles songs, right? They just weren't Beatles songs. Like they were held by George
they were
for that
withheld.
solo record.
Yeah.
But they were all amazing and I totally love them. The Cars, though, you're missing an unbelievable amount of music from the 1980s if you don't get the debut from the Cars.
No, Mike, it's an interesting
amazing.
pick, you know, and I respect it.
Now that I hear it, I would love to fucking play it.
Yeah.
So
I
we're
agree.
gonna get there. So anyways, guys, we've already previewed next week. We will see you next week. Thank you, Justin, for joining us
Thank you,
tonight.
Justin.
We really appreciate it. Mike, Justin flew out here for this
I
exclusively.
know,
you know?
exclusively
I know,
for this.
I gave them my receipts, and they're gonna hook me up.
We're gonna reimburse Justin.
They're gonna reimburse me. I'm gonna keep doing high fives until I see the fucking receipts.
There's gonna be no receipts.
No receipt. What? What?
The receipts are coming.
He slaps JB across the head.
Fuck.
No receipts. All right. Anyways,
We love you all. Thank
we
you
love
so
you
much
all.
for
Justin,
listening.
you'll be back. We know that. We'll see
Yeah.
you soon. Yeah. Thank you guys. Have a
Bye-bye.
good week.
Not
We'll see you next
under
week.
these
Hopefully our
conditions.
buttons
What
still
the
work.
fuck?
Yes.
We're gonna play like every button.
Are we?
This sucks. This sucks. This sucks. This sucks. It sucks.
Bye-bye, everybody.
But can we jam tomorrow? I wanted to jam. Can we jam?
Hold on.